All right, the General Council meeting for April 26th, 2022 is going to come to order at 7:17 p.m. First order of business will be to stand for silent meditation and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Madam Clerk, can I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Vice Mayor Erbaum.
Present.
Councilperson Perrella.
Here.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Martin.
Present.
Mayor Nickerson is running late. Also present for the record, Christy Alou, Village Manager, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Joseph Geller, Village Attorney. You have a quorum.
All right, very good. Before I ask for approval of the agenda, I do believe I would like to poll resolutions G4 through G7 from the consent agenda. So would I have a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of G4, G5, G6, and G7 from the consent agenda into the general agenda?
I'll second.
Oh, I need a
Oh,
motion.
I need, I'll make a motion.
Very good.
So I thought you were making the motion.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor say, oh, yes, sorry. Forgive me. Yes, okay.
These are all police items, why?
Because they are, because there's the three quotes, we have already discussed these. I just would like an opportunity for clarification for the benefit of the residents, since these are large ticket items. And just clarity on these items specifically.
With all due respect, we have been doing police for a long time, and all questions that I had, I already answered before I got here, so I wouldn't have to do what we're doing now. If there's an unreadiness, I think that unreadiness should have been made long before we planned this meeting. We've been waiting for these resolutions.
My motivation, well, my specific motivation for pulling these from the consent is specifically for one last opportunity of clarification for the benefit of the residents because of the large value associated with this. In addition, the ability to clarify where these funds are coming from, all for the benefit of the residents, not necessarily to rehash this, just truly an opportunity to provide just one last opportunity of clarity before it's submitted.
I yield to the city attorney. I think we're ready.
Any member can pull items from the consent agenda if they want to discuss them. They don't have to, but they can. The purpose of the consent agenda is if everybody consents. If somebody doesn't consent to it being on consent agenda, they're always able to ask for it to be discussed.
Point of order,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. We did this. We did police stuff. This is not the first time, correct?
That's correct. And so I wouldn't anticipate we'd be spending long on this, even much longer than this discussion is taking place. Partially because of the ordinance that we have coming up and the number of residents who are here in attendance as they would look through these items. Again, just taking this last opportunity for a point of clarity for the benefit of the residents.
Then let's make the clarities right now. I mean, we're right here in the meeting. Let's make the clarity right now. Because police, number one, has waited too long to get what is needed. We acknowledge that at the beginning of this term. We acknowledge the police has waited too long to get what they need. If these were just things they didn't need, it'd be different. The results are gonna be the same. They're gonna ultimately get the handheld body radios, which I understand that it's way past time.
Well, I would,
Uh,
yeah,
I'm
go ahead,
still-
sorry.
Still got the floor. The radio trunk mounts. The radio trunk mounts. We never had radio trunk mounts, and if we did, they must be dated at this point. Police identification creator and maker. When we discussed that, we did it at length. Okay. When we discussed it, we did it at length. The traffic message board, that one is an innovation in and of itself. I made it very clear when I first came on the council, if we do a first reading and we get it all, and we get it all out, we get it all out. If anybody has any problems in the middle of it, then they need to make that known, call the city attorney, call the police chief, call whoever you need to call to get your clarity. But to hold these items again, when we've been trying hard to show good faith, that's all we've been doing, is showing good faith the whole time that we've been here. The manager puts a lot of effort into it. It's easy to pick up the phone and call the manager. It's easy to pick up the phone and call the chief. But for us to hold these things again, I think it's just a waste of time. We came here to do business.
Yes, Mr. Attorney.
Just to clarify, this is a new procedure for this village, so I understand that, people are gonna take some time getting used to it. But I do want to emphasize, these items will be heard tonight. They're not gonna be postponed. They'll just be treated the way we had discussion on resolutions before we had a consent agenda. So they're not being pulled from the agenda. They will each be discussed and voted on tonight.
Okay? Thank you, I appreciate that, because I thought it said we're gonna pull these from the agenda.
Not at
That's
all.
We're gonna pull them from the consent
Consent
agenda and put them back on the regular agenda where they can be discussed and they will be voted on tonight.
If that's the motion, then I
Yes.
understand.
Okay. And I will even add that my motivation for doing that was actually to have one last opportunity to highlight all the things that you just discussed. And I feel very strongly that as a member of this council, there is an additional responsibility to make extra efforts of clarity to the residents of the things that we are doing, the money that we are spending, and where it's coming from. So, again, my motivation certainly is far from
Denial.
denying or withholding or
Okay.
further causing this to be delayed, I guess.
All right, accept it.
It's really just to be able to,
Accept.
offer just an additional level of clarity for the benefit of the residents.
And Vice Mayor, if I may?
Yes, absolutely.
Just so that we don't, this doesn't dissuade anyone from using the consent agenda going
Yep.
forward. Usually, I don't believe you have to justify why you want the item pulled.
Okay.
Just you wanting the item pulled is enough for the item to be pulled. And then after that, once we start reading them like regular items, then we have the discussion. So your items are pulled because you want them pulled, and we can discuss them.
Yes, but I certainly do appreciate the concern from Dr. Lightfoot Ward over, the concern that this was not going to be heard tonight. And so I think we're all on the same page now here. All right, so I'll close the discussion to the council and offer any discussion from the public about, I don't need to do that, okay. All right, seeing none. All right, back to the council. Ayes can have it? No, but I'm saying, we have a motion and a second. So can I get approval through ayes? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. All right.
Nays?
So then we'll move straight into the consent agenda. I'm sorry, acknowledgement of visitors and or special presentations, the Water Conservation Month proclamation. So here in El Portal, the month of April is Water Conservation Month, and the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas the state of Florida, water management districts, and the village of El Portal are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation. And whereas the village of El Portal in the state of Florida has designated April, typically a dry month, when water demands are most acute, Florida's Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources, and whereas the Village of El Portal has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs and special events, and whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can make a difference when it comes to conserving water, and whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can help by saving water and thus promote a healthy economy and community, and now therefore be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in myself as Vice Mayor, Urban, as well as the authority vested in Mayor Omar C. Nickerson of the Village of El Portal, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Conservation Month in the Village of El Portal, as we encourage all to join together in acknowledgement as Florida is calling upon each citizen and business to help protect our precious resource by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. All right, very good. Say it again. Yeah, okay. All right. This will be the first portion of Good and Welfare tonight. There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting, but at this time, if there's any one in the audience who wishes to discuss anything at all, now is your first opportunity. All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda, and those are, yes.
I do have something. I
Sure.
would like to introduce the village's new code enforcement officer
Okay.
to the council.
Absolutely.
We have with us tonight Mr. Carlos Herrera. He's our new code enforcement officer, and he's been highly anticipated. He comes to us, he's a retiree from the city of Miami, where he served over 30 years in code enforcement as well as zoning enforcement. So we welcome you, and you have your work cut out, but we think we're in good hands with him.
That's awesome. Yeah, please, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. He'll come
Yeah.
and say a few words.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm glad to be part of the great village of El Portal. I'm gonna be here. I did 25, almost 30 years, fire department, code enforcement, zoning, plans examiner. So I know the boards very well, so I'm not going anywhere. So my mentor is Ms. Alou over there, and whatever you guys need, all you have to do is email me, and we'll meet early, talk about whatever you guys need, so we can get back on track and bring our Portal back to what it is to be, what it used to be, what it needs to be. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That's
I
awesome.
have a question.
Oh, Carlos.
It's okay.
I apologize, man, I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, you got a friendly smile. It's okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm missing the ice.
Are you still certified? Is your certifications up to
I have
date?
my phase 1, level phase 1, level phase 2, and level phase 3, and also I'm a state certified home inspector with wind mitigation.
Okay, but
Still
those
active.
certifications are up to date.
Yes, the fire one is not, I haven't renewed it, and the fire inspector or the firefighter, no. But my level 1, my phase 4 in code enforcement, yes. And state certification as a home inspector and a wind mitigation, state certified. It's up
Okay.
to date. Yes,
I
ma'am.
trust the village manager knows that, and you have been to the conference lately or no?
I have to renew it, so that when I do now next weekend, on May 14th and 15th, my renewal, I reset up my continuous education.
That's
I
right.
gotta send it to Orlando to face, so that I could pay what I owe, and then renew my membership. My membership is up to date, however, I gotta catch up with my fees.
Okay,
However, I
are
am
you a retiree?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
are you an active member?
I am an active member of the FACE, but I am retired from the city of Miami.
I understand the retirement
Yeah,
side,
yes,
but are you working on the retirement side, or do you come activated again on your certifications?
I don't know, I would have to talk to Orlando about the FACE, because every year I renew my membership in FACE. So my membership is up to date, I just gotta catch up with my dues.
Okay, very good. Now you've answered my question.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry,
I
I
trust the
apologize.
city manager will make sure that you retain what we
I-
need in terms of, because you might get kickback, and I don't want somebody to
No,
say, he's
yeah,
not even
that
certified,
will
you
never-
understand?
I might get my butt kicked, but I'll never get a kickback.
Okay, all right. Your name is again?
Carlos Herrera.
Very good. Thank you, Madam City Manager. Anyone else? Sir?
Anyone else? Sir?
Having good.
Sir, ma'am?
Okay.
I like her.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
that
Vice
former
Mayor.
city manager coming out. I know what I'm looking for. All right, thank you.
All right, that's awesome. I continue to surprise myself by being excited about code enforcement. So, all right. Moving on to the consent agenda. This consists of G1, the approval of the minutes from the March 22nd regular council meeting. G2, approval of the minutes from the March 29th special council meeting. G3, approval of the minutes from the April 12th special council meeting, as well as G8, the digital conversion of government documents. Do I have a, yes?
Not everyone does this, but I would recommend that
Read-
when items are on the consent agenda, we at least read the titles of them so that the residents do know what is being approved, even by consent. So with your permission, I'll go ahead and read number G8.
Yes, go ahead.
A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, Miami-Dade County, Florida, providing for the improvements of the efficacy of programs addressing negative economic impacts through improvements to data or technology infrastructure, complete digital conversion of government documents. The Village of El Portal, Florida, of Miami-Dade County, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Is there I have a motion by Councilperson Martin. Is there a second? And a second from Dr. Lightfoot Ward. Yes, Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call. Vice Mayor Urbom.
Yes.
Councilperson Pirella.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Very good. As we move on to items G4 through G7, is it possible to have a discussion, Mr. Attorney, with all of these items in one vote? Okay, very good. All right, so let's start with G4. Do I have Chief in the house at the
He
moment?
was just here.
If not-
He might be dealing with a call,
Yeah,
but if
after-
you want to
After I have the attorney read the resolution,
Yeah,
Madam
maybe I can
Manager, would
help.
you? Very good. Okay.
Yes.
So G4, Mr. Attorney, please.
G4, resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, of Miami-Dade County, Florida, providing for the purchase of essential police equipment, communication, handheld, and body radios. For the Village of El Portal, Miami-Dade County, providing for corporation of recitals, providing for the effective date.
All right, very good. And do I need a motion in a second before discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve item G4?
Thought you wanted to discuss it.
All right, council, is there any discussion on item G4? Very good. Okay, Madam Manager,
Yes,
if you could just,
I can give you a little bit of information on this.
that-
The chief I know is on the phone,
No
but I
problem.
can tell you this.
Yep.
These items are part of the whole ARPA funding that we receive. We want to purchase technology equipment for our department to strengthen it. They need all new handheld and body radios. The ones that we have are so outdated, they're over 20 years old, or some of them. Chief is off the phone now, so perhaps he can explain it to you. But this is a part of in fact, all of those items that were pulled, but we can go through them individually. But these are going to be funded because technology and first responder equipment is allotted for ARPA
Yeah.
funds.
So Chief, the only reason I had offered to pull these items from the consent agenda was just to have one extra opportunity to make clear for the residents what we're accomplishing through these items, and then additionally how they're funded. And so the manager essentially just clearly outlined that these funds are not from our general funds, but are coming from an additional resource that we have through the ARPA funds. And then additionally, we just wanted to make clear to the residents that we're doing what we can in the council to bring the equipment needs of the police department into the 21st century. And do right by you guys, because we certainly appreciate everything that you do for the village. So, so on these handheld radios and body radios specifically, if there's anything else you would like to add, please feel free.
With regard to the handheld radios?
Yes.
Well, it's ever since 9/11, the issue's been with first responders being able to communicate in case of a large emergency, or being able to communicate when you're broken off to different agencies. These are the radios that have that capability. It's a newer system. The beach has gone to them so far. the city has transitioned, Coral Gables, several other municipalities, and that's what it enables you to do. That's why it's a larger purchase than a regular handheld radio. You have that ability. The officer can go to a different agency, dial it in, and you're in.
Okay, so this could greatly increase our efficiency, everything from emergency response for disaster, like hurricane, all the way to some sort of other crisis.
And even daily serving here.
Yeah,
Something
between the
simple as
different
assisting,
municipalities.
Somebody, you reach out to somebody in a different municipality,
Okay,
and you're eliminating everybody in between that we bounce to now.
that's awesome. Okay. Would I have a motion to approve item G4?
Before you do that, I have a question.
Okay, yes, please.
Is that anything different than what you told us when you introduced these items?
Okay. She asked if anything had changed from the first reading to now, and the answer was that no, this is the same item that was originally presented, and so nothing has changed. All right, very good. Would I have a motion to approve item G4?
Motion to approve item
Very
G4.
good. Motion by Councilperson Perrello. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Martin.
And
All right.
Vice Mayor, if I may,
Absolutely.
the only reason about the consent agenda items over here, my concern was actually, it was only 2 questions about all the items, because I noticed only 2 of the ordinances says the funds are coming out from the ARPA funds, right, and the rest are not. So wanted to make sure that it wasn't coming from the budget or anything.
Oh, absolutely not. We didn't budget for it. This is your budget. We adopt it. These are coming completely from those
Completely
federal funds.
from the additional
And if
funds we got.
that was
right.
not stated, it was just an oversight, but these are
Perfect.
from federal funds.
All right, before I ask for roll call, do I have any questions or comments from the audience? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call. Vice Mayor Earlbaum.
Yes.
Councilperson Perrella.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, that's fantastic. All right, just hang tight just for a minute because we got, do the same thing with the next items. We'll move right through these. All right, Mr. Attorney, item G5, resolution regarding police department communication radio trunk mounts.
Resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Capital, Florida, Miami-Dade County, Florida, providing for purchase of essential police equipment, communication radio truck mounts. To the Village of El Capital, Miami-Dade County, providing for corporation of the title, providing for an effective date.
All right, very good. And discussion in the council here. Chief, I guess I would ask first if you could just give us a summary of what this equipment is and what it accomplishes for the police department.
As opposed to the handheld radio, it's a trunk mount radio. It's the one that you typically see in the car. It communicates evenly and it has the same capabilities, and it offers the officer another safety channel. If he loses the radio, if his radio goes dead, if he's in any way harmed and he can retreat to the car, he's got communication there, as opposed to not having a trunk mount radio.
Okay, and so as so many times is crucial in emergency response, redundancy has a life-saving capability all of its own, correct?
Most definitely.
Yes.
And if need be, you can monitor 2 frequencies at the same time.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, would the council have any additional questions on this item? Again, for clarity, the funds for this are coming from ARPA, not from the general funds. These are additional funds that we receive from ARPA.
Yes.
And then additionally, this continues to bring our police department into up to date with equipment that is modern.
Right.
So, and definitely needed. So if any other council member has a question for either the manager or the chief.
Same question
Nothing is, it's the same. as before.
Okay.
that you said before.
This is, remember the one that, I guess it got connected to the Dell, because the pictures are there and the resolutions
right.
are there, but the explanation is the same.
Okay.
And this is part of your modernization program that you introduced when you first became chief.
This one is more necessity because it's already there on, let's say,
On the-
some
that-
of the older cars, but we have to add it to the
Did
existing
you-
vehicles if not, the officers are going without. But it is everything modern.
All right, very good. Would I have a motion to approve item G5?
So moved.
All right, Councilperson Martin with the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Lightfoot Ward. Before I ask for roll call, will there be any discussion on this item from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call, Vice Mayor Urbam.
Yes.
Councilperson Perella.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Fantastic. All right, moving right along, Mr. Attorney, item G6, the resolution stating Police Department identification creator and maker.
Resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, Miami-Dade County, Florida, providing for the purchase of essential police equipment, police identification creator and maker for the Village of El Portal, Miami-Dade County, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Very good. I guess, Chief, my first question would be just again, a summary of what this does for the department in terms of fulfilling a need. And then for clarity, again, these funds are coming from the ARPA funds as well, Madam Manager, and not from the general fund, so.
Correct. And it's an ID creator, quality ID creator. That way it's believable when you show somebody an ID that it's a real ID. When you don't have that, they look at it on both sides and they ask you, this is your ID. And you have to go on to explain everything. Aside from that, if we go to any other technology as far as key cards or anything, compatible. And we can issue the other employees as well through my office, and I keep track of everything.
Okay, that's fantastic. I imagine, does anyone else have any questions? I won't step on any toes.
Same
question,
statement.
yes.
Exactly what you said. Same
Along the
statement.
Yes, same exact.
And this is part of your modernization plan.
That is part of it, yes, ma'am.
All right,
I remember.
very good. Any other additional questions from the council?
Nope.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve item G6?
So moved.
All right, moved by Councilperson Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Lightfoot Ward. Before I ask for roll call, do I have any comment from the audience, questions or concerns? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call, Vice Mayor Urbam.
Yes.
Councilperson Perella.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right. And then, Mr. Attorney, finally, G7, resolution reading Police Department Traffic Message Board.
A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, Miami-Dade County, Florida, providing for the purchase of emergency communication technological equipment, Police Department Traffic Technology Message Board, the Village of El Portal, Miami-Dade County, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
All right, very good. And then, Chief, continuing, this is further supporting our modernization. This, again, it sounds like a critical piece of equipment to greatly enhance our ability to communicate to the general public. And again, these funds also coming from ARPA, is that correct? All right, not from the general funds. Very good.
These are the message boards typically you would see if you're setting up on the highway or something with construction, medium size, because we don't need the massive ones. But it allows us to communicate with the village, with residents, with visitors, whether it's an emergency, whether it's an event, whether it's for traffic control, to let them know we're enforcing traffic. Those are all the different ways we use it nowadays, and it should also have a speed measuring device attached.
And then just a couple quick questions. One would be the one that we selected. Does it have the ability to scroll a message? Is it how can it?
Digitally, yes.
Okay.
You can message it and change and opt the message out.
So you could have, say, like 3 message boards that it cycles through and at a speed that we can program.
That one will not. It will do 2.
Okay.
But it's digital. It's not like a TV screen.
Gotcha.
It's just the letters that come
Yep.
up, and you'll put on there.
But we can do 2 panels.
Correct.
and
North
we-
and Second Avenue's closed till whatever date.
Okay.
Please use alternate route.
And can
And
we?
then it'll say alternate route.
And can we customize the amount of time in between, like the time that it takes to cycle through? Is it set? Like, does it take 2 seconds, 3 seconds before it switches to the next panel?
No, that's something that we can do. We control through.
That's awesome. Okay.
the handheld.
All right. And then, council, any additional questions for the manager or chief? No. Okay. Same question, I imagine? Yes.
Same thing.
Yes, consistent with the modernization.
Very good. All right. Do I have a motion to approve item G7?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson Martin. Do I have a second? And second by Councilperson Perella. All right. Before I ask for roll call, do I have any comment from the audience on this item? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Also present for the record, Mayor Nickerson. Roll call. Vice Mayor Urbam.
Yes.
Councilperson Perella.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes?
Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, very good. G8 went with the consent agenda. Chief, thank you, and we certainly are, we're very glad to be able to help you guys get to where you need to be. Sincerely, thank you. So,
To the Vice Mayor.
yes,
I want to commend the mayor and the manager. I don't know who did what first, the mayor, the manager, or the chief. I don't know who did what first, but whenever, as you said, as long as we can find other resources to supply what we need, that's the mayor, very good.
and the manager.
That's what I expect. Remember, that was one of my first responses. My first comments is that we stay clued in with grants, special funding, and that third one that I never can remember, because it's out there. But you have to be looking, and your service chiefs have to be looking for those items. Thank you so much, Chief. Madam Manager, since you have to do all the stuff to get it to us, and council, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
And additionally, I would say, I wish the residents would be aware of the sacrifices the police department have made these past few years to keep that level of service without this equipment that we're now finally delivering. So the residents may never know truly what our officers have gone through to get to this point, but we certainly appreciate every one of those sacrifices and acknowledge that. So, all right, Mr. Mayor, you want me to?
How you doing, Mr. Vice Mayor? I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Apologize for everybody.
you're right.
being
You're right on
tardy.
time. We're
I was-
headed into H1, the ordinance on short-term rentals. So,
The thing that everybody's here for.
yeah.
I actually was doing village business. I'm working with the county resiliency department. They're putting together a cohort. You guys are going to be getting an email about that, and I'm helping them organize that whole situation. So we're going to be doing that with different municipalities. And I was downtown coming from that, and so from village business to village business. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Thank you very much, Council. How you doing, Councilperson Perrell? I didn't get a chance to shake your hand, but you know, I love you, my brother. It's all good. All right, so we're moving right into the short-term rental ordinance. We're back to the first reading. With this right here, you guys, we did like we did last time. We'll go through it. I'm sure that many people have their notes that they want to inject and put in as we go through it, and you guys will have a chance to do that, including the individuals in the audience at the same time. So as we pull it up, let me pull it up really quick for a second. The first part, you all, where it starts off, the whereases, that right there we don't have an option about, but we will we'll start at the very, very top though. But just so you know, the whereases, we don't have an option about those. Those are set in because the whereases is where we get to the background. It's kind of where we get to the background and the history of the situation, so that we know kind of like where we're starting it at from today. All right. 1 second. Does anybody have a problem with the title of it? If we look at the title, does anybody have a problem with the title? I will read it for everyone. It's almost up. You like my styling techniques, Vice Mayor? Here we go. I'm up and ready. The ordinance of the Village of El Portal, Florida, relating to short-term vacation rentals within Zone 3, providing a definition of a vacation rental, requiring a license to operate a vacation rental, providing standards for issuance and revocation of a vacation rental license, requiring issuance of a vacation rental, providing standards of operations, providing for penalties for violations of this section, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflict and repealer, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This right here is more or less general. But this right here, we do have an option to adjust. The whereases we don't. Does anybody have a problem with the title before I pass through the whereases and get to the meat of the ordinance? Seeing none, we move through. All right, so we're getting through the whereases. Now we're at the now therefore. Now, therefore, it will be ordained by the Village of El Portal, Florida Council, that now you guys, we are at the place where we can start to have options in as far as shaping it the way that we want, if there's any changes that we want. I'm going to get through section 1 through 3. I'll stop before I get to section 5.71. If you guys have any questions or changes from 1 through 3, when I get done there, you guys will let me know then. First, I'll ask the council, then I'll ask those out there in the audience. Did you have a question already before I even get to the sections? All right, come to the mic real quick. Say your name and address for the record. Since it's only a couple of you guys, if you want to, you don't have to keep going back and forth. State your name and address for the record and just stay up there.
My name is Pascal DePoule. I'm at 177 Northwest 90th Street. I understand that the whereases that refer to laws cannot be changed. The ones, though, that you guys are making assumptions, that's on the 5th one and on, I do think that they can be changed when we had discussions on those on first reading. So I wanted to ask why those cannot get addressed.
When we did the first reading, we didn't alter any whereases.
Yeah, we did.
No, we didn't.
Added in 5 we changed it, in 6 we changed it.
So for example, with the 5th one, I think, if I remember right, at least one of the issues raised, I don't know if it was changed or not, but at least one of the issues raised was that the language sounded like it assumed that there would be impacts related to size, excessive occupancy, and lack of proper facilities if left unregulated. Is that what we're discussing, at least for
No,
the
the
5th one?
only thing that would be here, excuse me, Vice Mayor, for a second. The only thing that would be that we were considering, because I have that right here in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the 5th whereas, we added may.
Right.
In the 6th whereas, we added may and or. And/or.
But these define the reason why you guys are making an ordinance.
I understand, but it was under my, and Attorney Geller could correct me if I'm wrong, it was under my assumption that when we went through the first reading, anything that was of substance in any of the whereases, we couldn't alternate.
Mayor,
Yes.
and let me just say, sir, again, that's why there is some alteration. It does state that if left unregulated,
Right.
that there may be a problem if there was excessive occupancy, if there was a lack of proper facilities. But it just says it may, if there's a disproportionate impact. But it doesn't say those things are occurring. It just says that in this, event, that this could be a problem. So, I mean,
Well-
I understand
that.
that we.
These
I'm
are the
sorry,
reason.
can I just finish the sentence, please, sir? Not everybody's going to agree on every word. When you draft something, they say that a camel is a horse, drafted by a committee. So the attempt, though, was made for this new first reading to soften the language to make clear that it's not saying this occurs because of vacation rentals, just that is the reason why the village might want to regulate vacation rentals, because if left unregulated, these things could occur. If you change that or take it out, then you're saying you're not leaving a reason why the village would want to address this at all.
My point's the opposite. These are the reasons why you're saying that we're having an ordinance made, especially in 8. It talks about balancing our rights as property owners and the needs of the village to have safety for guests and everybody else. But a lot of the things that are talked about in the whereases don't get addressed in the actual ordinance.
So in what whereas do you want to change something, and what do you want to change in what whereas? What are the words you want to alternate?
I'm fine with all the whereases, with the one exception that talks about that they may lower property values, because we have shown studies that is the opposite. But that's neither here nor there. It's not a big enough issue for me. My issue is that those whereases are the reason why we're doing this. When we were in committee, or when The reasons given for even writing an ordinance on short-term rentals was for party houses, for porn shoots, for all kinds of things. None of them are addressed in the ordinance in terms of being worked on. I just wanted to come up and say, if we're talking about a reason why we're doing something, we should address that reason. That's all I need today.
So do you want, so is it your suggestion you want us to add a whereas that
No.
says that we also want to address this, whereas the Village of El Portal has been dealing with many homes that have loud noises, many homes that have been operating outside of what we feel like the scope of the village is? Do you want a whereas like that?
No. The only thing I want to bring up is in 8, we're talking about a balance between my right as a property owner and your need as a village. And when I look at this ordinance, I feel it's very heavy on the need of the village and very light on the right of the property owner. It's a statement, not a request to change anything in the whereases. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, if we're going through, if you're going to have suggestions, you don't have to, I don't want to have to make you, if you go, okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
I yield to the village attorney. Is there a likelihood that the residents will appreciate, because I'm starting to think about what this gentleman just said. Where does that fall in the line of writing this ordinance? Because I would hate to have this ordinance and we have to go back later on and amend it to state the residents' side of it. Because what he just said is critical. It is not here, but can it be placed here? Or is it understood? Generally understood, because I did not understand it at all. And I'm thinking about him because I have this problem already on my neighborhood.
Just
You
a
gonna come
quick,
back up and say what you just said, sir? Mayor, may we?
just a quick clarification also when you get up here. It would be helpful for me at least to understand exactly, maybe a specific example of what you think is not being addressed in the body of the ordinance.
Sure. Again, Pascal Lepoule, 177 Northwest 90th Street. Good evening. Whereas 8 talks about a balance between your needs or our needs as a village to keep, protect visitors and tourists and preserve general welfare. We're all for that. But it says it balances that with the rights that I have as a property owner to rent out a place. We've been here in El Portal for over 20 years. We've rented homes long-term, so a year plus for over 20 years. We have multiple properties here. We've started doing short-term rental about 2-3 years ago. And when I read through the ordinance, it talks about how I'm licensed, how the place gets looked at, what requirements I have. But the specific things that were talked about in committee before this even came out to the council was that we need an ordinance in the first place because there's party houses and there's porn shoots and there's cars parked on the street that are too much, there's extra trash. Those are all listed in the ordinance, but they're not addressed on how they get resolved. So if I have a party house, I don't want that next to my house. But if my owner that owns a place throws a party, I can already call the chief at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, can you please tell them to be quiet? I don't need a short-term rental ordinance for that. So everything that I see in here is heavy on the needs of the village and very light on my rights as a property owner. Where it gives me extra requirements on top of the ones that the state gives me already or the county gives me already. A lot of them are duplicate, where I already now have to do more than before, and I don't see the needs that were presented in committee, why this was going to be an ordinance, addressed in the ordinance. There's
So-
nothing in here that says, here's how we plan to shut down a party house.
This is true. So I get what you're saying, but I guess sometimes when you legislate, you can go the route of enumerating all situations, but sometimes in the effort to enumerate all situations, you miss some of the other occurrences around that. But in the ordinance, I don't remember exactly what section it is, but there is a section that speaks to complying with all ordinances of the village. And that is how you would shut a party house down if you're not complying with either our parking guidelines or our guidelines when it comes to noise ordinances. All of those things would get at a house, right? At a house that's becoming a party house. Right now, unfortunately, the issue is that for owners like yourself that you're representing to me right now, that you are, in compliance, you follow the rules, you make sure that the people that are occupying your residence are in compliance with village ordinances. I mean, that's great, and that is definitely what we want to do. However, there are bad actors who are not doing the same. And in that situation, unfortunately, we're charged with our legislation to get at those parties. So it is going to seem as though it is more heavy-handed on that end. It's because we legislate to try to control to try to limit the bad actors. But also, we have looked at the ordinance, and in weighing that, a good actor such as yourself, I do not think is unnecessarily burdened by the requirement of now just giving us your name and a contact person. And of course, there's a fee involved, but I hope that you agree that in relation to how much you can possibly bring in as an owner of a short-term rental, hopefully that fee is something that you think is nominal as well. So I get it. It puts more requirements on you. However, although it doesn't strictly address party house, all of these things are contained within the restrictions that are in the ordinance. And as we move through it, I hope that some of the conversations illuminate that for you. I hope you stay so that we can talk. And maybe at the end, if there is something that isn't contemplated, definitely it's something we want you to bring to our attention, because we do want to figure out the ways in which this is imperfect. So it's still working. I know that's not a great answer, but it's the one I have for you. Hopefully you stick around, and hopefully at the end, you're more pleased with what you hear.
If we have an ordinance like, let's stay with the noise ordinance already
Yeah.
on the books, I don't understand why we need a second one.
So this is the issue. If we have the noise ordinance, right, and there is someone who owns a party house that's okay with paying the fine and will just continue to do this over and over again and harangue their neighbors every single weekend and just chalk it up as a cost of doing business, that's not necessarily fair to their neighbors. The hope is that with this ordinance, by getting at the means within which they are making the money, the means within why they are even hosting this as a short-term rental, that will get them to stop and to regulate more closely what's happening on their property. So we do have the ordinance. This is a unique issue that has popped up recently, and this is our attempt to get at that.
I appreciate not getting everything enumerated and saying, oh, well, there is this one little loophole that we just don't have written down. But you're telling me in here how many bars of soaps and how many sheets I have to do and how many times I have to wash
Well, we
them.
can talk about whether or not
So,
that's
but I mean,
reasonable
we can
when we
go
get to
through
that
this.
area. For
Absolutely.
sure, we can definitely do
Appreciate
that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Martin. I appreciate it, Vice Mayor Irvine.
Yes, just quickly, I have a feeling that at some point, in all the municipalities that are initiating ordinances, because this is new to a lot of municipalities, right? I am confident that at some point, Citizens United is going to be brought up into this, because really what we're talking about here, the difference. So in terms of the balance between the property owner's rights and the village's needs, right? And there certainly is a balance and needs to be a balance in there. We are talking about a business that is being operated out of a private home. And so whatever that business looks like, it is a business that is being operated out of a home. So we had someone in who looking for a variance so that they could open an actual hotel on Northeast 2nd Avenue, an actual hotel. And it's small. It's like 6 units, if I remember right. That is going to be situated within a commercially zoned area of the village, right? And so there's always been a zoning issue at the heart of a lot of these matters revolving around hotel and even boutique hotel businesses. So that's, I think, where a big challenge comes into play, is that we're really trying to figure out how to allow a property owner to maintain their rights to operate the property how they wish, but we're blatantly going into the realm of a business that is open to the public, not like a home office, right? But a business that is open to the public in a residential area, and that changes everything, and essentially is how the water has gotten so muddy. And so in that is certainly a significant challenge to clear those waters. And ultimately the goal, I think the attorney would say the same, the goal here is to create a uniform code that puts everybody on equal footing here, so that the property owners that wish to do this type of business can go forward with confidence, knowing what their responsibilities are, so that they can conduct business in good faith, that the village is not going to shut them down, and that the residents who are all residents, including property owners who engage in short-term rentals, but all residents also have knowledge that the reason that this village maintains its I don't know, you can call it a bunch of names, but like ambiance, feel, all of that. So certainly there is a significant balancing act in trying to walk that line. And I do believe that a great deal of effort has been put into this ordinance to have a successful ordinance that will stand kind of the test of time, and not put property owners at risk, as well as not putting the village at risk. So we are talking about a business that is open to the public, that is in a residential area. So that is the crux of the matter here, I think. So I'll just say that.
Hi, Calixto Navarro, 335 Northeast 87th Street. As we have discussed, I'm a long-term resident here in El Portal. A lot of you know me personally. And I was one of the first people to do Airbnb in El Portal when Airbnb first opened up. It was, I welcome people, and I still welcome people in my home every day. I actually have guests right now in my house who have become friends of mine. I don't want a party house next to my house. Why? Because it disturbs my peace too. I don't want production trucks next to my house doing porno movies, because it disrupts the peace and the ambiance, which I agree with you. But we need to be very vigilant as to the ordinance, because what we wanted to do, and I stood here when the first time and I said, we need to take punitive action against these people. These are not your residents, because we have been to many meetings, Pascal and myself, to many of these meetings, and none of these people are here. None of them. Why? Because they do run a business. That is a business for them. This is something totally different. This is like we did over the pandemic, work from home. Okay? Our homes, where we live, is also a place where we bring our office. And this, you can call it our office work. This is not really a business. A business is when you have 100 Airbnbs and you don't care. That's not the case here. What can happen with an ordinance? I want something, and we discuss it. We don't want these party homes, but there is nothing in here. All it does is we have to jump through hoops now. Now we're going to jump through hoops. And now, if somebody in our community, because let's be honest, the village of El Portal is the size of a condo building on Miami Beach, okay? It has about the same number of residents. So it's like an HOA, okay? Almost like an HOA. If somebody has an axe to grind against us, if these issues are not clarified, I could see our new code enforcement being very busy if there were neighbors who wanted an axe to grind against. The trash is here. I found a paper outside. There's something out of place. And that could be weaponized against people that maybe for some odd reason they don't like us. And you know that I have also been, being a long-term resident, in the past dais that was here, my name also came up because I was friendly with people on the dais, and I was a victim of slanderous remarks and things of that sort. So because we're small and because everybody knows who we are, we have to be careful of how we do this. I don't want a party house. I don't want those things either. But we need to be crystal clear, and we need to be very careful of how we're doing it. And we have to be very mindful, okay? Because it could be used as a weapon against a neighbor, a very respectful neighbor that cares about this community. And that's all I really want to say. And I think that that's the spirit of what we're trying to do here. Because we don't disagree. Pascal and I do not disagree that, there should be something. But let's use it against the people who are really the ones that are going to damage our community, not enhance it. Because my reviews reflect, and his reviews reflect the spirit of El Portal, the peacocks, the beauty, the green, the natural thing, the vicinity, the restaurants all around, everything that makes El Portal. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say. I mean, in all honesty, that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
So just,
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor,
yeah, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
may I speak?
Yeah, let me say one thing, and I'm coming right to you,
Okay.
Councilor Lightfoot. So basically what you guys are saying is that the current ordinance that's in front of us, it has a lot of rules generally, but it hurts the individuals that are doing the right thing just as much as it hurts the individuals that are doing the wrong thing. So that's basically what you're saying.
It can be.
It can be. All right. So what you guys are basically saying is that the rules that are in this ordinance, we should look at the ordinance as a whole, and maybe even before we even have a short-term ordinance, what we should do is we should kind of like beef up and be more hardcore with our noise ordinance. And all right, see the head's moving again. So this is like what I heard. We should be more hardcore with what we have already in place and beef those things up, because those things will hurt the individuals that are doing the wrong things and not the individuals that are doing the wrong thing, the right thing.
I said it from the beginning. Find them hard.
So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody. So is their suggestion, what they're saying is that the current ordinance that we have in front of us, we shouldn't put it through as is because it's general and hurts the people that are doing the right thing just as much as the people that are doing the wrong thing. What we should do is, before we implement a short-term ordinance, what we should do is we should look at what we already have on the books, such as our noise ordinance. We should beef those things up, because that way we can find a way through those ways that we already have on the books. If we beef them up, we'll find a way to handle the situations that we don't like going on in the village currently. Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Somewhat ditto. I'm in the whereas on the second one. Let's make sure we're on the same page first. The 2011 legislature enacted House Bill 883, which preempted the local regulations of a specific land use commonly called short-term vacation. Preempted the local regulation. So when this thing was written, let's always remember, we didn't bring this fight. The legislature did. The Florida legislature did. And they purposely had in there which preempts the local regulation. I read it. I read it in general terms. Didn't try to get too personal with it. But basically, they tied our hands. I see your hand. They tied our hands because they passed a bill that we had no knowledge, and had it not been for our city attorney, the village attorney, to bring this, that it's coming down the pike, we probably would not have known it. with that said, if we could lock in within this what's already on the books, this is where I'm hearing the mayor and I coming together. If we can lock in what we already have, without passing this tonight, what we already have on the books, and reference what those things are so that they will be mindful that we're not talking about just how to apply and be in compliance with applying. We're talking about when you apply and you've been approved. Let's don't start the monkey business, but it's not in here yet. That's what you all are saying. Am I right or wrong? That's not in here. It doesn't even reference that we have things that already on the books, but they're not referenced in here, if I'm hearing you right. And without that, all we're doing is playing basketball by ourselves.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward, we good?
I'm good.
Thank you very much. Before you speak, let me just let me say this, because after you speak, I'm going to ask a question. But let me put out into everybody's mind right now on the council. Consider, I'm not saying I'm even for this, but I'm just saying, because I'm going to come back to you guys. Consider this. Would you like to table this for the moment? Look at our current ordinances, such as our noise ordinance and things like that, starting next meeting, and see if there's ways that we can beef those up to achieve the result we're looking to achieve. Would you guys want to table this ordinance in the meantime, look at those ordinance and see what we want to do with those, or see with those ordinance what we want to take out of those ordinance to implement into this ordinance? Do you want to table this tonight instead of wasting our time going through it? I'm not saying it's a waste of time. I'm not even saying I'm for this. I'm giving you guys an option to think about it before I let him speak. Do you want to table this, look at our different ordinances, see if we want to take some out of that ordinance, put in this ordinance, or if we want to just want to beef up those ordinances and see where that goes? We can maybe beef those up, and then put those in action, and then maybe we'll accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. Or maybe we'll look back 8 months after we put those in action and say, you know what, those weren't enough. We still have to come back to this one to get exactly what we're looking for. Think about that. Go ahead, Mr. Pascal.
Mr. Vice Mayor, you had said an Airbnb is open to the public. I'm not sure how that definition is legally. In my mind, if I'm renting to somebody for a year, like a normal tenant, or if I have a guest stay for 3 months, in my business, it's the same thing. You can't walk into my Airbnb if I have a guest in there like you can into Publix. So I'm not sure how that definition is and if that makes a difference. I understand that the guy that writes a lease with me for a year is a tenant, and the person that stays with me for 3 months is a guest, and I know there's a legal difference between that. Our biggest issue as short-term rental hosts on Airbnb or VRBO or some of the other platforms is I cannot screen my guests. When you apply to stay in my place for a night, a month, whatever, I see your name and I see how long you've been on the platform. That's it, until I approve you, and then I get a phone number and I can see your reviews. But before that, I see Bill, who's been here since 2020, wants to rent your place for 5 days. I have no idea if Bill's a good guy or not. I have no idea if he's thrown 10 parties. If I do a long-term rental and I sign a lease and I do a background check, I have a criminal background check, I have a credit report, I've talked with your employer, I've talked with your previous landlord, I've talked with your character references. I know who goes into my house on a long-term lease. Huge difference than on an Airbnb. So if I get a fine because somebody trashes my place, I can't control that on an Airbnb at all. I can't prevent that person from even getting there because I don't know them. So to see an ordinance like this that says if you violate a public nuisance, your first fine is X, with no remedy to cure that, I have an issue with that because it prohibits me. I can't do anything about that. I have a house block and a half down from here that's an Airbnb. My guests just left today. If they would have had trash piling up on the front of the house when they left, and an officer would have driven by and fined me for that and given me my first $250 violation per unit, per day, per everything, there's nothing I can do about it, and I wouldn't have known about that when I rented the place to the person, because I cannot know the person through the Airbnb. Now, they have rules and regulations, they have extra insurance, they'll pay for stuff. But if I have, hey, 3 fines and then we'll pull your license, it's not like a long-term tenant where I'm like, hey, I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't vet them. I cannot vet an Airbnb or VRBO guest. That's one of my biggest issues here. We don't have any way to cure a problem. So if somebody violates this and you guys happen to drive by before we see it, that there's 4 cars in front of the place instead of the 2 that are allowed there, and we get a fine, I have no recourse to fix it before I get that fine.
Okay, in regards to that, if I may, Mr. Mayor, in regards to that, I understand, and I thought the lawyer has suggested something about the first fine being waived, if it's the violation was remedied within, a few, 1 or 2 days or something like that, or, and for the first violation, that is something that I can see, maybe being worked on. And, but as far as the question the mayor made, I think the ordinance as a whole, it's what we have in front of us. It's just very speaks to everything we're all trying to accomplish here. I mean, it would, and mostly in most of the cities have in place. So again, it's not something that we're trying to, we're just trying to implement something that it's gonna be for the benefit of everybody. Don't forget, we all live here too. We all pay our taxes too. So it's my own, interest to have peace and quiet and and maintaining the essence of what the village is. And so I don't see other than the violation being the first violation being probably having some way that we can cure that, like you said. But as far as the rest and what they're trying to, we cannot discriminate whether it's an absentee owner or the home occupied short-term rental or anything like that. So cannot be an ordinance just, to tackle that part of the business. Because it is a business. I mean, you're a real estate agent, whether you sell a house or not, you have to pay your duties, your dues, $700, $8,000. So when you're renting a house, it is a business. As a short-term rental, you run it as a hotel pretty much. And I think the lawyer has I don't know.
I have a comment, if I may get this in.
Councilperson Martin, and then after Councilperson Martin, Vice Mayor Obama, and then we'll move back here. Thank you,
Okay.
Councilperson Martin.
I would prefer not to table this and to move on to beefing up other ordinances, because I feel like that doesn't get to the heart of the issue. If you have a party house that has a violation for noise once, then the other one is a special event permit violation. Another violation is a parking permit. The point is to deter them from even engaging in this type of activity, or to have them increase the monitoring of the property to make sure that these activities do not persist on the property. And the only way we get at that is by making their ability to host or conduct a short-term rental in the city, if we put that in jeopardy. I think us just going to the property multiple times and issuing the same noise violation, for some people, that is the cost of doing business when it comes to short-term rental. I'm not speaking to the 2 gentlemen in the room. Obviously, you guys conduct your business in a different way. I'm speaking to the people that are not in the room, that do host large-scale events, that park production trucks up and down the streets in a residential area and obstruct the sidewalks for women with babies, for dogs, for disabled persons. It is not fair to the residents that are trying to quietly enjoy their property to be subject to that. And sometimes we, as a council, have to make decisions that may not be popular. Nobody is going to like everything that you do, but we have to talk about it and figure out what we are going to do as a body about the issue. Because if we just rely on the other ordinances, the issues remain because those ordinances are already in place and have not been sufficient to address and remedy the current issue that misuse of short-term rentals poses in the village of El Portal. So for me, it's a no. As far as tabling it, we can talk about how we do it, but we need to do it, whatever it is.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Martin, Vice Mayor Irwin.
Okay, I'm going to start a timer on myself and stick to 3 minutes here. All right, so I agree with Councilperson Martin that I think we're making good progress. I think this discussion is incredibly productive, and that as we do get through these items tonight, that we will get some things ironed out, and I do think that we'll have a something we can move forward with. And the reason for that is, just as Councilperson Martin said, in terms of being able to accomplish the goal of creating an environment where a property owner can run a short-term rental successfully with confidence that they're not going to be, they know what the rules are, and you are confident that you won't be antagonized by neighbors or have the code enforcement weaponized against them, or otherwise being inhibited from being able to use the property as they wish, right? I do want to point out that we've made a very clear distinction here between guests versus tenants. So with a tenant, you do, of course, have the ability to vet them before they come in. A guest in a short-term rental, you do not, just as you're saying. So my point is you have the general public have access to a residential property, and the proof of that is that you don't know who the person is before they arrive with any kind of certainty, right? So whose responsibility is it then for whatever consequence occurs from having something go awry, as simple as trash cans left out for too long to as severe as someone gets hurt and emergency services are involved, right? Or someone within the village is endangered. So, additionally, so what I'll say is that my business experience is in hospitality, so restaurants specifically. And a primary strategy of having a successful restaurant, and by the way, the mortality rate of new hospitality businesses is more than 90% in the first 3 years. So if you open a restaurant, you have a 90% chance you will be out of business within your first 3 years. Those are the statistics. So how you get into the 10% is, one of the primary strategies is to create an expectation. So you can do that with your menu, you do that with the building presentation, you do that with the ambiance inside, you do that with a parking lot, right? And then you do that with your marketing. And so when people are going to a restaurant, they have an expectation of what they're going to be doing there. So is it a nightclub? Is it a strip club? Is it a pizza place? You take the kids? Is it a fine dining place? You take someone to impress them? Is it a business meeting environment? Is it lunch? Is it breakfast? Is it dinner, right? And so I think what we're trying to accomplish here with the ordinance is to create the path for someone who's operating a short-term rental to be able to outlay expectations, which will then give you greater control over who is utilizing the property, because as I said, marketing is part of that, what people can expect. So in terms of as simple as the information sheet that the guest receives when they arrive at the property, here's where you are, here's what, here's where the trash goes, here's where the parking spaces are. All those types of things that are outlined in this ordinance move to a position where a property owner, I think, has additional resources to create that expectation to then mitigate the number of problems that would occur from just having no expectation at all. And so I agree with Councilperson Martin that however this turns out, our goal is not to be sued by residents. we have no intention of creating an ordinance that is so problematic that it generates lawsuits against the village. That would be counterproductive and would be a waste of our time. But we do need some type of ordinance in place, and we certainly are doing everything we can to make it a fair, level playing ground for all. But there is a need. There is a need for an ordinance. And I do think that need extends to the property owners who are operating short-term rentals, because it will allow for, we're going to get through these points. And I think we have the same goal of trying to create an environment where expectations can be realized and those problems can be mitigated. So I do think we're on the same page that way. And I think we're making excellent progress, and this is incredibly productive, and that we will have something that will be workable and agreeable by the end of this. So,
Before you speak, let me thank you very much, Vice Mayor Irwin. Attorney Geller, you wanted to say something?
Thank you, Mayor. I just did want to provide one clarification to a point that the gentleman made. This ordinance creates a new section of the village code, short-term rentals. First the definition, and then a section about enforcement. There is some reference here to the village being able to take a case to the special master for somebody who's repeatedly violating. It doesn't say, because it doesn't need to say, that the structure of our code is such that if anyone violates the code, you can be cited by our new code enforcement officer who was here and introduced earlier. And if you don't think that that is proper, if you think you've been cited incorrectly or that the code is being inappropriately applied to you, there are provisions in our village code that say if you're cited for any violation of the village code, you have the right to appeal that and to take that to the special master, to have a hearing, to present evidence, to be heard. Typically, when there's a code violation, and we'll have to, there'll be some growing pains with this completely new ordinance, but typically, when you're cited for a code violation, you're given a warning and you're given a comply date. So when you say the opportunity to cure it, typically, if you cure it by that comply date, you never get an actual citation. But even if you do, you can take that to the master. And if you're not satisfied with the master, you have certain appellate rights as well. So there is an opportunity to be heard. This is not, hey, we said you did this. That's the end of it. Like any code violation. That's why we have a master.
Mr. DePool.
So like I said, Pascal DePool, 177 Northwest 90th Street. Like I said, we've been running long-term rentals for 20 plus years here. The only ordinance or the only regulation that you guys have for that is that I pay my local business tax. That's it. And I can have the same exact problems with a short-term guest that I can have with a tenant. Granted, I know the tenant better. Granted, I have a little bit more power because I can tell him I'm going to evict him or kick him out if he does this again. My issue, or my understanding of what you just said, Attorney Geller, if I have a party house, or if I have a house and somebody throws a party, code enforcement comes, cites me. That guest leaves. He's only there for a night. He doesn't want to be there longer. If I have a 3-day minimum, he's going to rent the 3 days. He's only going to stay that one night, throw the party. I cured it because there's no more party. The next guest comes, throws a party. Do I get another citation or another notice? I mean, then we're not doing what you guys are saying we need to do, which I agree with. We don't want to have the party house. We don't want to have that. But if what you're saying is how the code and then this ordinance fits into our code, I can have parties every weekend.
Just to clarify, if there was a violation that's not continuing, you can't cure that because it happened. So if there's, if you haven't painted your house you can paint your house.
Right.
But if somebody was blaring music at 4 in the morning, you can't unblare the music at 4 in the morning. So it depends. I mean, if it's a violation because you don't have a designated person, you may not get the license. But if that person sends us a letter and says, I quit, you have to replace them. But it's not that the person quitting, I mean, it's a curable violation, but you can't unblare last night's 4 in the morning. So it's a case-by-case basis, but if it's something that can be cured, you will get an opportunity to cure it.
But if I have a guest in my house and he throws a party at 4 o'clock in the morning, we have security cameras on the house. We'll do all. I can never cure that
So
because I don't live at the house.
So a quick thought for you. So some of these are business decisions that you're thinking of, right? So you've made the decision to pursue this as a business endeavor, and sometimes when you do that, the rules change, and you just have to figure out how to either function in the current environment or hop out of the business. I do know that there are Airbnbs that monitor the amount of devices that sign on to their Wi-Fi so they can make sure that it isn't a party currently happening. There are sound monitors that you can put on the property that you would be alerted to, so that if there is some sort of violation, you can call that guest and say, hey, what's up with the noise? Turn it down. Or you can send your designated person over to check it out and see why that is happening, or why you have multiple devices on your system. So there are proactive measures that you can take to ensure that you don't run afoul of some of these things that are in the ordinance. But at that point, that is you as a business owner making that business decision to continue to operate that business and figuring out how you can do so in the present environment, if the present environment contemplates this ordinance being passed. And those are just some things that are available to you. A lot more things are available out there because so many people are doing it. Many communities are putting in place ordinances like this, and people are figuring out how to function within the confines of that. So that those might be things that you want to look into.
No, I understand that. We run Airbnbs in 3 different municipalities, or 1 county, 2 municipalities. We understand that.
For sure. I was just getting at your statement that if the party is thrown at 4, if the party is thrown, you don't find out until the next day. There is something that will alert you when you see all of those devices. You would then send out your contact person, and they would say, whoa, a party is being thrown. Stop it right now. If they start blaring the music, as soon as the music blares, the device alerts you or your contact person, and then you can call and remedy. And in that situation, then what Attorney Geller is saying is true. You can then choose to either call your contact person, seek a redress somewhere else, and then come to the city and say, hey, I did everything I could try to do to stop this party. And there are touch points in the ordinance that
Probably in that case, we don't think it's a business. If it's, if they're not paying rental, I mean, could you try to fudge the edges of that? I mean, I guess someone could, and if it was never a problem, would we ever know that it wasn't just your guest? Maybe not, but if you're charging rent, if there's a rental contract of any kind, even a verbal one, and somebody's paying for the privilege of staying there, they are a non-owner who is occupying within the meaning of this, and that's what the ordinance is trying to get at.
Yeah. So vacation rental means a dwelling unit.
Yeah.
You guys want to just do that and take
Yeah,
non-occupied
I do
owner
think
out?
it's pretty muddy
Yep.
the way it's
All right.
the way it's written.
So I'm taking it out right now.
I do think it's muddy the way it's written. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
We're
that
good.
cures
All right.
the issue.
So we took that out. Anything else with yeah, I took that out. Yeah, that's exactly what I took out. Non-owner occupied. That's exactly what I took out. So now it reads, vacation rental means that a dwelling unit, zone 3 is available for rent, for hire.
So, excuse me,
Yes.
sorry if I may, Mr. Mayor. So
Yes.
that doesn't mean that if is not the property owner, can rent a unit.
Repeat that
So
again,
if
Councilman
you, if you delete in that part where, we had the explanation from the lawyer saying why the language is there, that means that he just explained that if somebody's staying in the house and they could have actually the right to sub-rent the unit because the non-property owner is not there anymore.
No, I'm not
Right?
understanding. Can you repeat?
Let's
See,
say-
deconstruct any language and find a problem with it.
Yeah.
And whenever you write, there's always, some lawyer will always look at it standing on his head with one eye closed and say, no, I took it to mean something else. That's kind of the job.
A vacation rental means a dwelling unit. Are we good with, is anybody bad with that on the council? Does anybody want to change it back or have a problem with taking out the words non-owner occupied? Or is everybody good with non-owner occupied coming out? We're good?
Good.
We're good, okay. All right, can we move on to 5.71? 5-71, I mean?
Any issues with section 3, though?
No, section 3 is pretty straight up.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
All
have
right.
something on 571.
okay. I'm gonna read it real
Oh,
quick, just so
sorry.
people understand, then I'm gonna
No
let
worries.
everybody jump in, just so like everybody knows where we're at, what it says, all right? All right, here we go. No owner of a dwelling unit shall rent or lease the dwelling unit as a vacation rental without first having obtained a vacation rental license. A separate license is required for each dwelling unit used as a vacation rental. The license shall be valid for 1 year only and may be renewed as set forth in this section, and shall be valid only for the person to whom it was issued, and shall not be subject to sale, assignment, or transfer voluntarily or involuntarily, nor shall the license be valid for any premises other than that for which it was originally issued. The license shall be displayed in a conspicuous place in the vacation rental. The fee to apply for a license issued under this subsection shall be determined via resolution from the council, which must be tendered at the time of application and shall not be refunded if an applicant is denied. The annual fee for renewing an existing license shall be determined via resolution from the council. Councilperson Martin.
Oh, just one small item. I guess maybe we should, or I think it might be good to speak to the fact that if there is some sort of transfer or sale of the property before the year that this fee covers, that there is no prorated refund of that amount. I don't know if it's just implied, if it's just how we do things, but I guess someone could ask. Oh, I guess someone could ask for some of that money refunded to them if there was a sale sometime within the year contemplated by this license.
Okay, give me the exact words you want me to put in there.
I guess
If there
no
is-
prorated refunds of license if the home is sold
No prorated
before
refund.
the year is up. I'm sure Attorney Geller can come up with something that, captures that.
No prorated refund of license. Go ahead. What was the rest?
If the home is sold during the year, I guess they have the license for.
Do you have anything to add to that, Attorney Geller?
You know, the one way that you could say it, although that's not necessarily a problem, you could simply say, all licenses expire upon sale of the premises.
Perfect. See, That's
Well, let me
why-
just say,
that's
both
why-
of you guys said it perfectly. All licenses expire.
Upon sale of the premises. The new owner wants to get one, let him go get a license.
I can keep
Should we say sale or transfer?
Okay.
sale or transfer?
Because if it,
What is this there?
Yeah.
Transferring.
or next of kin in the event of a passing, yeah, okay.
I'm used to doing resolutions. All right, so I got right here. I mean, we can keep both, or we can just keep one. But I have no prorated refund of license of a license.
I vote for Attorney Geller's.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Nice and
I can keep both
concise.
now. I
What
can
you
keep
may
both.
want to do, Mayor, just as
Uh-huh.
you move forward, as opposed to reading all 8 pages, since they're right in front of all the council members, so if you want to go section by section, you can just ask if everybody's okay with it.
Yeah, I can do that. I just want to make sure, like, I don't want.
That's the first, the big one, the first one is the big one.
First one's a big one, and I don't want anybody to come back later and say that I didn't know that was in there. I thought it said something else. I'm just, first one's a big one. Yeah, I got you. No problem. So all licenses expire upon sale or transfer of the premises.
Yes.
We're good? All right. All right, for section 5.5-72, we have this here. We have these numbers. Councilperson Perella, start thinking of yours, because that could be number 13. You might want to make this yours number 13 about living in Miami-Dade County under this section.
There's a place right there, Mayor. It's under 12. It says right there.
Is it under 12?
Local contact person within Miami-Dade County. And then it says residence or office located in Miami-Dade County, individual within Miami-Dade County. It says it in that paragraph under 12 3 times. And, it's
Yeah,
a
I have-
pleasure. I just wanted to point that one out. That's
Right.
an easy one to change. We have to change it in 3 places. If you think, Florida City's just too far.
Before we get to that, Councilperson Perella, start thinking about how you want that to be worded. So we have a 1 through 12, you guys, on here. Some of the things that stuck out from last time, number 1, was something that we went over in the first reading. Is there anything that of 1 through 12, these particular numbers, is there anything that anybody wants to address? Some of the notes that I have, for example, I have in number 2, we added the 4 calls within 2 years. In number 3, we added the 4 calls. Been revoked 4 calls within 2 years. Those were added from the first reading, the previous first reading. This is first reading also, but from the first reading, those were added. The 4 calls. Number 7 was something else that was kind of came up as far as a question.
The liability.
The limited. What was the liability part or the limited
LLC
partnership?
or
The LLC.
yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. Are we good with that? Can we put? Can we put that in? Make sure that's good. Number 10 was something else that was kind of discussed in number 1. The applicant fails to provide approved inspection report, because I guess they were trying to say that you have to get an inspection report anyway. You have to go through an inspection anyway from the state or something like that. So do we have to have it also? Fire marshal, that's what the whole thing was about, the fire marshal.
Right.
Are we good with that? That was a big thing in number 1 in the first reading. All right, I'm hearing none, moving on. Okay, so now we're at the, come up, say your name and address for the record. DuPaul, Mr. DuPaul.
Finish 1 through 12 and then we go over it again?
Yeah. So you have something in something 1 through 12? You have questions?
But you want to finish through 12 and then I'll go over it?
I already did. We were done through 12.
A question for number 1. It says applicant owns the place. Can I hire a management company to run
It
this?
says applicant does not own the vacation rental?
Yeah, so I cannot get a license if I don't own the place. Makes sense. If I own a place, can I hire a management company to run the place for me if I pull the license?
Yeah, it says it all over the ordinance, yeah. Yeah, it's in there.
You have to have some kind of an agent unless you're there.
Okay.
That's in that same paragraph that we're talking about, whether that person is within Miami-Dade County. So no, you couldn't hire a management company from Palm Beach.
Right, but I can hire a management company that has an agent in Miami-Dade County or
If they comply
100-year.
with
Okay,
everything else,
gotcha.
yes.
Mayor, the question about number 10 was that Miami-Dade
Yes.
County does not do fire marshal inspections for units under 4 units.
Oh, so you're saying this wouldn't apply to everybody?
If, I've called the fire department, I've asked them, and they said, if you don't have 4+ unit, over a fourplex, we don't do this. I cannot comply with that.
We can put something like we're applicable,
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we have
So-
that on the business tax receipt for Miami-Dade County,
If
which is
required,
also,
yeah.
I cannot get for a under 4 unit building. And we have the, if required in there.
The applicant fails to provide an approved inspection report of the fire marshal, verifying compliance with the fire marshals and for such use, where applicable, after use, right? After use. All right, save that.
And then number 11 talks about a rental or a lease agreement on an Airbnb or a VRBO. There is no rental, or well, Airbnb has no rental or lease agreement outside of the platform. So I don't have a rental agreement. They have an agreement with Airbnb. My guest has an agreement with Airbnb, and I have an agreement with Airbnb. But there is no lease or rental agreement that I write for my guests on Airbnb.
So that should suffice, but we need language to make it clear that it would suffice. Is that right? So the agreement that is essentially the agreement that Airbnb has in place, or another Verbo, whatever it is, should suffice, but it sounds like we need language to say that it would suffice. Like, it's an assumption right now.
You have an agreement with Airbnb, not with the guests themselves, is that what you're saying?
Yes, there is no rental agreement or between me and the guest.
Right.
If I,
It says with any occupant, add the words mayor, or rental platform. So then you would produce your Airbnb agreement, knowing that you don't have one with that particular guest.
okay, the only thing that I have on top of that agreement would be my house rules that I have that say no party, no smoking, no blah, whatever.
But you have an agreement with Airbnb.
Yes, but not with the guest.
Right, so I said, we
Mhm.
could add after occupant
Or
rental platform.
Done.
You produce
Okay.
your Airbnb agreement, and that suffices.
That's a standard agreement that every host has. It's not specific to me or my property.
right.
They have one with you, though. You have
Yes,
an
but
agreement
it's
with
the same that
Airbnb.
it's the same that Calixto has on his property.
I understand,
It's
that's
not.
why I'm saying,
Yes,
sir,
yes, I hear you.
or rental platform.
I understand.
That means you produce that, yes.
Okay.
If you're saying I don't have agreements with the guests because I have one with Airbnb, you have to provide something showing that that's the case. That's
Okay.
Yep, it's in there.
or rental platform.
It's in there. Thank you very much. Anything else before we get to the, all right, so we're at the paragraph under number 12. This is one, Councilperson Perella, I don't know if you want to jump in and, are we good?
I'm sorry, yeah, the other thing that if you guys agree, like you just, the mayor said, I mean, Geller, Attorney Geller.
Even though the state says what it requires as far as the 30 days, we're doing our El Portal ordinance now, so we can put it what we want to put it, as long as it's, you know, we can put it whatever we want to put it in, as long as it doesn't, like, you know, fight with the state. So what he's asking us, you guys, and I'm opening it up for whatever opinion you guys have, what he's asking us is that in his experience, if an individual stays more than like 5 days, 6 days, and especially up to 3 months, those are the individuals that we'll never have a problem with within the village of El Portal. Do we want to have that language instead of 3 months, have it 30 days?
Mayor,
Yes,
just
okay.
as a
Attorney
member
Geller.
of your order of procedure, if you want to address this issue, which seemingly you do, you should ask, is there a motion to amend that section to change the 30 days? And a second, if there is no motion or second to amend it, you don't really need to discuss the issue because there's not a will to do it. If there's a motion and a second to amend it, then you put that issue on the floor and you have discussion about it.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it like that. I wanted to, what we were doing last time was that if we got to a place where we had any type of like disagreement or any type of like, you know, thought, I kind of open it up and see if anybody has a thought about it. If I feel like, you know, there's nobody says anything, then I'll just move right on, you know. But it's all good. Either way. Does anybody have a thought about this?
So,
Are we good with the 3 months? That's there.
yes.
I'm good with the 3 months.
We're good with the 3 months. That's there. Okay. We're gonna
Sorry, when we did the first reading, the things in blue here,
the things in
we
blue.
did exactly what you said. We said, hey, we're not quite sure on this. Let's talk about this next time. And now
And-
you guys are saying, we're just gonna shut these down, not even discuss
No,
them.
that's not what we're saying. We just discussed it. You said your piece. I said my piece. I explained it. I clarified it, and I asked them if they were good with it, and everybody's good with it.
What's the reason for the 3 months though? Why are we doing this?
All right. Let me say it like
I'll-
this.
So
Isn't most of every ordinance for rentals, purposes, it's 6 years and 6 months and 6 months and less is considered a vacation rental?
And that's why last time I said
exactly.
we were going with
That's
3 months.
All across pretty much all across the county.
and if I could,
Vice Mayor.
so mitigation of party houses is not the only reason we're trying to accomplish this ordinance. So short-term rentals is a business. So the overarching goal of this ordinance is to regulate a business that is operating within El Portal. And so 3 months or less, so, you know, if we said 31 days, I think what I'm getting at is someone could just do month-to-month rentals. They can list it online, and they can put it on the MLS as a month-to-month, right? There plenty of people put their properties for rent on the MLS and do not allow 6-month, 3-month, or 12-month rentals. It has to be a month-to-month. They can put that on there, right? So if we say 30 days or less than 30 days, then you can have someone operate a month-to-month vacation rental property. They may not be bringing in high-risk clientele, but they are operating a business outside of the parameters of this ordinance. So by keeping it at 3 months or less, we are able to encompass all properties that are operating a short-term rental as a business out of their residence. And so it's not, I want to be very clear, this is not certainly the overarching, the biggest issue in the room is a disruptive, habitual property, chronic offender, right? That's certainly the big shiny object, right? But really what we're trying to accomplish here is a fair regulation of a business that is operating in El Portal. Personally, I'm not entirely concerned with what the state guidelines are. This is a huge state with one of the largest economies in the world. Mm-hmm. So translating what the state of Florida says down to what the smallest municipality in Miami-Dade County is dealing with, that's lost in translation. So maybe hedging a little bit more towards what the county guidelines are, but only maybe, because in the county you have South Beach, Mid Beach, North Beach, 3 entirely different markets, all within one municipality of Miami Beach. You have Brickell, you have Edgewater, you know, and you haven't even left the shoreline yet, you know. So we need to really consciously think of what is best specifically for El Portal. So in a nutshell, I would say that's my reasoning for leaving it at 3 months.
So my tenant that rents from me on a long-term year lease comes to me and says, hey, I'm moving when my lease is up. Can you go month to month with me? Under this ordinance, I can't, because now I need to get a short-term rental license to have a tenant that stayed in my place for 10 years be allowed to stay month to month, because now I fall under this.
That would be correct.
All right, you guys. So let me just say that, you know, we're going to go through I'm trying to get through this as quickly as possible, y'all. We're going to go through this. There are going to be some things that everything's in the open. I'm going through everything. What the council decides is what, you know, the council decides, but everything's in the open. There's nothing that we're cutting out or leaving out. I'm not skipping over any parts or anything like that. We're going to go through everything. You wanted to talk about this particular thing?
Yeah, just real quick, because we were discussing about what was in blue that you had highlighted, and in section 2 you mentioned, I apologize, Calixto Navarro, 335 Northeast 87th Street. Vacation rentals means a non-owner occupied dwelling unit that is available for rent or for hire for transient occupancy by guests for a period of time less than 3 months in duration. And we had suggested to do it less than 30 days. But, you know, I don't know how you're going to enforce it with people that have long terms, like he was saying, someone that's been in a house for 10 years, and then their lease expired, but they're in the process of closing a house, and how are you going to tax them now because they overstayed they're going month to month now. Do you see the ramifications of that?
Well, I'm sorry, isn't that, I think there's a little confusion over here, because if you're not having that property as a register as a vacation rental, it's just a long-term rental unit.
Yeah, but I would
You have a
automatically-
contract
Right, but it
for a
would
year, and that contract could renovate and you could do month to month for, with a long-term renter, as long as, I guess as long as 3 or 6 months. That has nothing to do, I believe, I don't know if the lawyers, has nothing to do with the vacation, vacation rental situation.
You could,
No,
ju-
I- just
hold on.
to-
You could drop a 3-month lease with them, with a clause in there that allows them to break the lease without penalty. I mean, that's
Yeah, I
possible.
mean, well-
There are remedies for you to work that
Okay.
out with the resident. And I don't see how we could write an ordinance to account for, again, there's going to be generalities in this. This is not going to be able to address every single issue. There are going to be generalities. And so I don't see that as a circumstance that would be so prohibitive that would require us to adjust that timeline.
Okay.
Exactly, because you're
Okay,
not
but I
leasing
just
that
wanted
property
to-
as a vacation
I-
rental.
Because then what if they just need 15 days to close on the
Right.
property and not 30? I mean,
Right. I'm
there's got to be a line somewhere.
Okay, but I just want to make sure that we discussed the last time, and Mayor, the vacation rentals being a non-owner occupied dwelling unit is available for rent, for hire, and transient occupancy. If they live in the house, if they're the owner and they live it, that would not be considered, a vacation rental.
Is that correct? Owner occupied?
Owner
Yes.
occupied.
That's a
Legal
question I
license.
had, like, how do we define non-owner occupied? Like, because the situation I'm thinking of is, could someone say, okay, well, I live in the property from Monday through Thursday, and then, they lease it out on Saturdays and Sundays, are they not subject to then these?
Well, I mean, let's take
restrictions?
I've been doing it for now going on 12 years. I mean, I live with my guests. They use my kitchen. We share the kitchen, the bathroom. We share everything. They're guests inside of my house. They're part of my family.
So
I mean, is that a vacation rental, or is that me
that's a valid question.
receiving people in my home? And I think that a lot of us do it that way, because I know Pascal also does it that way too. And a lot of the people who, this is not really a business, it's part of my life. It's been part of my life now for
Mayor.
almost 12 years. Is it a business? I mean, is that a vacation rental, or?
The answer, sir, is that if you have guests in your home, and they're, people or people you meet at the coffee shop, if they're there as guests and they're staying at your, courtesy, that's not a business, and we don't purport to regulate that.
Okay.
If they're paying you money and the money is somehow related to how long they're going to stay, at that point you've become a business. They're no longer guests in your home, whether you're there or you're not there. If you're charging money for someone to stay for some period of time, now you're operating a business, and that's what we regulate.
Okay, so then that section 2, vacation rental, means a non-owner occupied dwelling unit that is available for rent or for hire for transient occupancy.
No, sir.
by-
Even if you're living there, we don't
Uh-huh.
discriminate against
So
whether
basic-
it's owner occupied or not. If you're charging money for someone to stay there, it could be, what used to be called a boarding house. You can provide them meals or not. They can have a separate entrance or not.
He's saying
It's a business if you're charging money.
he's saying the language in section 2 does imply that there is a difference.
There is a difference, and I mean, this is my home. This is my primary
Yeah.
residence.
Let me ask, because this is kind of like what I was thinking about, and I don't know, maybe this might be kind of far fetched or far out, but So if you're charging somebody to stay in your home, what if when my son or daughter becomes 19, I'm like, hey, you got to start paying monthly rent here, guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I'm charging them to stay in my home, but that's like my child, or a cousin comes in, or an uncle comes in from out of town,
Or roommates.
or I'm charging them to stay in my home. So that's where it kind of gets a little bit
Is that addressed by that transient occupancy
Fishy.
piece? And should we just remove the non-owner occupied portion, just say a dwelling unit?
a dwelling
Would that
unit,
solve it?
maybe.
We could do that. The intent of that language is to say that there is an occupant who is not the owner. It may be a little clumsy language. That's language I've seen used.
Yeah.
But the point is, it doesn't matter if the owner is there. It means if there is occupancy by a non-owner. Now,
Yeah.
if you think it's clearer, we could certainly take out the word non-owner occupied.
Yeah,
But
that-
it's intended to cover any time there is rent being charged. Now, what happens if your friend is staying with you and they're helping you with the utilities because they're staying for some period of time, or they go out and fill up the refrigerator because they're a guest of yours for a long-term period? I mean,
Contemplate discretion from the manager, whoever her designee is, in situations like that. So it's not as draconian as you represent, or it can be, or you can think of it as being something that is really harsh and unwieldy and out of your control. But there are things as a business owner that are firmly within your control that might cost you, and I apologize for that. But in the grand scheme of things, I think makes it a situation that contemplates preserving the quiet enjoyment of owners who want to live in their home, and also allowing you the opportunity to do business, but good business, in the village of El Portal. So I hope you agree with that.
I 100% agree with that. My biggest problem is the person that represents himself to me on Airbnb, I cannot see if they want to throw a party or not.
Oh, no, and we don't say that you do. You should just put things in place so that as soon as that
We-
idea pops into his mind, and you
We
can
have
take the
that.
actions.
We have those things in place.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is, what you said, I like, where you're saying, hey, if I can come to the village and say, listen, I called them, I showed up, I talked with them, they didn't stop, I called the police to shut them down. I've done what I can.
Mm-hmm.
Great. That takes a big weight off my shoulder. How I'm reading this is, if this happens, first fine.
Mm-hmm.
3 fines, license revocation, tough luck.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying makes a ton of sense to me. That's how we run our business. We've unfortunately have parties thrown.
Mm-hmm.
We've also shut them down that same evening.
I think that shall piece is definitely in there for a reason, but I think what Attorney Geller just enumerated as far as how you can address a code violation, I don't think that we are that out of touch with how things work, that in a situation where you did try or have all these things in
No, that's
place,
perfect.
and it happened, that it would still be an issue. So.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Councilperson Martin. I appreciate it. I know Councilperson Lightfoot Ward wanted to jump in and say something.
I'm gonna turn that corner a little bit differently. Just like we would allow people to take over our property, you can also double what it takes to get into your property. So that if there's any fines coming up, they'll already know you're not getting this money back because you already you reneged on what I told you could not happen in here. So I definitely agree with my colleague here, is that it's not a city trying to hurt somebody. It's a better control when they know you gave me double or triple to get into my place, what I'm using as an Airbnb? Airbnb, whatever. Air, I thought it was an Airbnb, air, short-term rental. Get them in their pocket first. I was a property owner too, and I had some very bad tenants. So I collected double on what would have been a simple little deposit. I didn't run to the city and tell them, hey, I'm not gonna pay the fine. I already know. If you crap out in this property, I already got your money and you're not getting it back. If you leave my property the way you found it, you won't have a problem getting back whatever that extra I gave you. In other words, if I had a $2,000 deposit You're not getting it back if you wrangle. So this is not a business thing for us. It's a environmental, do the right thing. But don't expect us not to want to fine you for not being able to make sure that they understand you cannot do anything you want in the village of El Portal. And I think that's what the village attorney is saying in his legalese. That's what it was coming back to me as. Don't lay that on us. Lay that on the people that's going in there and suddenly want to disappear. No, they won't disappear with the money. If they want their money back, they will not disappear with what you said you can't do around here. Because your devices, as my distinguished colleague said, your devices will tell you, no, you're not getting this money back. I got to pay for this, and you already have it. But don't throw that onus on us, because we didn't do it. But your devices will tell you they're not getting that money back, and they got to vacate your property. Am I right or wrong? They got to vacate. If you say you just totally disallowed for the rules and regulation in this property, you don't get that instead of $2,000, it's $4,000. You don't get that back because you violated it. So from a business standpoint, and me recalling that I had property and they were not nice and left me hanging, I didn't get any more of those people anymore. So take the advice. Distinguished colleague has already indicated, and I think the very essence of what you charged them to get in there, they want it back. They'll not get it back. One time, just one time, they won't get it back, and you evict them. You get them out of there. Like you say, they can't stay in your property, and that's for everybody. And that's why I'm glad we tape these meetings.
Yeah.
I also promised Councilperson Peroa I would raise at least one issue. I know he had maybe some other concerns, but I do want to highlight that what we put in here, because we had to put something, was that the designated representative had to reside in Miami-Dade County. Now, there was some concern raised that, depending on where you are, it's a pretty big county. And if you're in, Homestead of Florida City or Cutler Bay, you're pretty distant. On the other hand, if you're in Hallandale, you may not really be all that far away. So we put Miami-Dade County because we had to put something. But I did want to highlight for you and did tell Councilperson Peroa I would make sure to bring forward. Some cities use a distance requirement or a time requirement. You have to be able to get here in 30 minutes. Now, of course, if that's at rush hour, that could leave you 5 blocks away. Or you could say, 20 miles or 30 miles or 25 miles, this being a big county. So I wanted to point that one specifically out to you. And as I have told you, if there are any changes that the council wants to make tonight, unless they are dramatic, you can amend this, and we can still go forward to second reading at our next meeting, unless the change is really very substantial. As you see, we have some residents who are here who want to talk about this. And anybody who is concerned about this is on notice that we're going to be talking about this ordinance tonight, and if they have something to say, they're entitled to be here. They have the right to be heard. So if there are amendments, you can make them tonight. Frankly, you could propose them prior to second reading as well for vote next meeting. Again, it can't be anything. I mean, if you decided to do what Miami Beach did and have a $10,000 a night fine, you might be able to do that. Questionable under current state law, but you might be able to do that, but that would mean a new first reading because that's dramatically different. But things like the one I just
called to your attention. Or by the way, you can adopt it as it says, and you have the right to amend your ordinances at any time. You just need to go through first reading, advertise, have a second reading. If 6 months from now you said, I wished we hadn't left it as Miami-Dade County, I wanted to tighten that up and say 25 miles, you can always amend your ordinances, and it's not a tremendously difficult procedure. It's not like having to amend your charter. So, councilperson, I told you I'd make sure that one was put forward, and I think, Mayor, that it's possible that either that member or others may have some tweaks, and I just want to be clear that you can do that and amend it tonight if that's your pleasure, or put those forward in the meantime and amend it at second reading as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Attorney Geller. Yeah, which is why I want you guys ready to get started so we can go through and make those changes we want. Councilperson Perella, what he was just talking about with that, the resident living in Miami-Dade County, I think you probably want to address that when we get to 5-72. So that'll probably be part of 5-72. You just add a number to that at the end of that. All right. Okay, we're good? Ready to get started, you guys? All right. Okay. All right, so we're on the now, therefore, you guys, in section 1, section 2, section 3, section 1 and section 3 are pretty much there. There's nothing to really alter. What can be altered, though, is under section 2. The conversation we were having last time was the period of time. Remember that, Vice Mayor? We were talking about the period of time, and the one we tentatively agreed on was less than 3 months would be considered a vacation rental, and that would be considered what would be addressed in this ordinance. All right, vacation rentals, which would be less than 3 months. You can stay up there if you want to, Pascal.
Pascal DePool, Northwest 177 Northwest 90th Street. Just a question on section 2. The state in HB 833, one of the whereases defines a short-term rental as 30 days, and the county defines a short-term rental as 30 days. Why do we want to define it as under 3 months?
The conversation that we were having, if I remember correctly, last time was because the argument was more than that, I believe, if I remember correctly. We started to argue about what exactly was a short-term rental because we started at 6 months, I believe. And then what I said, I think at that particular time, myself and I know Councilperson Perella and Vice Mayor were discussing it. I said, okay, you guys, I said, for right now, I said, can we agree to a compromise of 3 months instead of 6 months? I said, because that's the middle ground. So is your suggestion that it should be 30 days or less?
I'm just saying
To match
the state in one of the therefores, in the second one,
In the whereas, the second whereas?
I'm sorry, House Bill 83 defines a short-term rental as 3 months. And Miami-Dade County defines a short-term rental as,
Less than 30 days.
30 days. I'm just wondering the reason behind 3 months. We can pick an arbitrary number. We can, do 47 and a half days. If there's a reason for 3 months, I'm happy to understand it. I just think if we want to do the same as the state and the county does, then it would be 30 days. I don't know what the benefit is of defining it as a longer term than 30 days. Because again, the issues that you guys are trying to address, which we're all on board with, is the things that are very normal for a very short-term rental. It's the day or two rental.
So the 3 months you're saying we would never even have to address anyway because that barely happens in residential short-term rentals is what you're saying. You're saying, like, for example, in your experience, all the years that you've been dealing with short-term rentals, have you had an individual stay in one of your residential short-term rentals for 3 months or more?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we rent to traveling nurses in a place that has in Miami-Dade, that has a 30-day plus or less than 30 days. So we rent to traveling nurses that stay for 3 months on contract. But the problems that we have are with people that are coming for less than a day or two.
Okay, so the decision basically what you're asking us to make is you're saying that if an individual stays for up to 3 months or more than 3 months, usually those individuals, you don't have a problem with them because they're not partying 3 months in a row every night.
I'm saying people that stay for longer than 5 days, I don't have a
Usually
problem.
you don't have a problem with. So the question for the council is, do you want to, because
Welfare, if you want to make suggestions or recommendations, I don't know that there's a number that necessarily the council has in mind, but it's a public process, and
Okay.
you have the opportunity to appear, to comment, or send an email to everybody and say, I hope you adopt this number, this is the fairest, or whatever. We did keep the penalties actually quite low compared to a lot of others, on the theory that they'll get larger if there are repeat violations, but it's quite low as a first offense if someone's actually charged. I mean, that's past warning
Understood.
and,
Yeah, I get that.
try and clean it
No,
up.
then
But
I'm-
you get the,
that's
you'll,
withdrawn.
you'll get to weigh in on that.
And then I would, just for the benefit of knowledge, I would say that we did discuss this to some degree, I think, in previous readings. And when the idea of large application fees came up, it was acknowledged that that would not really affect large operators and would be very punitive towards residential smaller operators. So I don't believe that we have any desire to go in the direction of exorbitant application fees, and that we tried to put the punitive measures in there to address the concerns as opposed to making the application itself prohibitive. So I do remember having very pointed discussions regarding the application fee in terms of keeping it reasonable so that a resident would be able to operate without punishment.
And Mayor, if I may add, another point that Councilperson Perrella raised was whether or not we wanted to regulate by the guest or by the bedroom as a, what's a dwelling unit exactly. And you could set a fairly low number, but if it's a large property with lots of apartments, a lot of beds, a lot of dwelling units, however you chose to define it, that could add up so that large operators would pay considerably more because they're renting to more people. But for somebody renting out a room in their house, a room or two or whatever, it would be quite low, but it would increase rapidly for, large commercial applications, and that was a point the council person raised. You don't necessarily, we could tweak this to say where it says dwelling unit, and then one way to get this moving quickly, which I know has been a concern of several of the members, is when we schedule the ordinance for second reading, we could draft resolutions with blank numbers for you to fill in and just have it agended by the clerk to vote on the resolution after the ordinance is presumably adopted on second reading. If by some chance it's not adopted, you don't get to the resolution, but we could try to bring those to the same meeting, and they could be considered later on the agenda if second reading passed.
So we're good. We're not changing any other words to this ordinance.
I think we're good to go.
We're
And I
good
would
to go?
love to do it that way, Attorney Geller, if you
Yeah.
could.
Yeah, I think so. Also, I'm in agreement with Councilperson Martin.
If that's something that you're inclined to do, let me just find. Where it says in the definition, we took out non-owner-occupied, so it's a vacation rental means a dwelling unit. We could say or bedroom,
or bed. I mean, I wouldn't
Or
go
bed.
bed, necessarily, because, if you have two
So we're in section 2, vacation rental means a dwelling unit or bedroom
bedroom,
or
I
bedroom
mean, if you had,
in zone
two
3.
twins or two
Okay.
doubles or something in a particular room, even two queens, you don't necessarily want to make that change. But if you said or bedroom, and then just reduce the fee per bedroom so that it's a low amount, so somebody that's, renting out 2 bedrooms in their home, the total becomes not much. But if you have some very large property that has, 8 rooms that are in there, in terms of what is a dwelling unit, I mean, there are definitions at the state level, but Councilperson Perella's point was to, base it, you can't really do it based on the number of people that are renting, because, you're gonna have 2 kids that are sleeping in a bed together, it could be twins, so. But that's one way of getting at it, that you could make it geared towards more intensive rentals, but not, make sure that the amount is low for, I think Mr. Garcia said 2 bedrooms, and it's only
Navarro,
one of
Mr.
the-
Navarro.
I'm sorry?
Navarro.
I'm sorry, Mr. Navarro, excuse me. But I got the Calixto one. But, I think I know a Calixto Garcia. But anyway, the point is that that's a way that you could keep it low for small operators, but recover more from people who were larger ones. I guess the gentleman.
So, no, right before you
Councilperson
get
Martin, go ahead.
there. My comment was more so that I would like to discuss like what the cost of this is going to be simultaneous to that second reading happening. As far as the bedrooms in the dwelling unit, I understand Councilman Perella's point, but that's not my point. It could stay as is in that section for me. I just want that simultaneous discussion on second reading and then how much this costs so we can get it.
Unless somebody has a different view, and I don't know why, we'll bring that back for, Mayor, if that goes into your folder. We'll make sure we bring that back for-
I already have the folder. You guys gonna get an email tonight with current agenda items for May already.
Awesome.
I already have it dialed up.
And
So
my apologies for cutting in front of you.
no, you guys are good. Just for 1 second, Mr. DuPont. So are we keeping it vacation rental means a dwelling unit, or vacation rental means a dwelling unit or bedroom?
You may want to wait till you hear the gentleman's point. I think that's why he came up.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. DuPont.
My concern with the or on the dwelling unit or the bedroom would be
So you
that
want,
I can get a license under a dwelling unit and that Calixto can get one under the bedroom. That sounds vague to me if it's an or. So I think it needs to either be a dwelling
And-
unit or it has to be a bedroom.
Pretty good point.
so we'll keep dwelling unit, you guys.
And I don't know any large buildings in El Portal that would, you could argue and say, hey, if there's a 4-unit building, that's 4 units, that's 4 licenses. That's, I don't care if they have 2 or 4 bedrooms, it's still a relatively small unit. You're not getting 1 license for the 4-plex. I don't even know if we have 4-plexes here. So if it's a unit and that's defined as, 1 apartment and you have 2, then you need a license you need 2 licenses, 1 for each unit. I think if we get into bedrooms or beds, we're gonna have a price list that's this long.
No, we're good with dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, any last questions or comments? Any last questions or comments from the audience?
No, I was just gonna say, I don't think El Portal has huge well, I think they're building.
We're building, but that's a different zone. That's a different zone. We're not even getting that. That's a different zone. All right, here we go. Hearing none from either the council or from the audience, Madam Clerk. Not Madam Clerk. I'm gonna ask for a motion first. But are you almost ready? All right. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance short-term vacation rentals first reading?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martin. Do I have a second? Give it to him. Councilperson, second by Councilperson Perella. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call, please?
Roll call, Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Urbom.
Yes.
Councilperson Perella. Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Councilperson Martin.
A big yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you all. This is what government is all about. Look at their faces. They don't like it too much, but we go through it, and this is how government works, you guys. So this is a beautiful thing. Madam Manager, I'm not going to do my report because it's late and it's time, but you can do a small summary of your report. My report and your report are usually always the same because we do everything together.
You're right.
Some stuff I initiate, some stuff you initiate, but it's always together. But go ahead, Madam Manager.
Okay, I had planned to do the same thing, but I'm going to just give a quick highlight okay, I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the fact that the police department is working regularly. We're actually reinvigorating the emergency management team as we prepare for hurricane season 2022. A number of equipment shortfalls are being met with the federal funding from tonight. The ARPA funds and additional staffing is being pursued with 2 new reserve officers who will be joining our ranks very soon. They are Renee Gutierrez, Benny Marino, and Ricardo Chavez. They are retired Hialeah Police Department police officers, and another one is retired from the city of Miami. So we are welcoming more staff, more reserve officers, which really makes our ranks swell. And you know, no one can say you don't see El Portal Police about, because I see them everywhere now. I also want to just make a quick mention on this Saturday, April 30th, 2022, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the El Portal Nature Trail. Our Vice Mayor, Anders Urbom, who is the chair of the Village of El Portal Tree Board, and the El Portal Women's Club will be hosting Arbor Day Festival. It is open to everyone. It's going to be a very nice event. It always is. It's fantastic. Please know that it is taking place rain or shine. Bring, represent your roots potluck. Residents are encouraged to bring a dish from their culture pre-cooked. Picnic blankets, folding chairs, personal utensils, napkins, and hand sanitizers. And for any questions, please do reach out to our Vice Mayor or Mrs. Amira Diaz, who is with the El Portal Women's Club. And we look forward to seeing everybody out on Saturday afternoon. And my manager's report is already on the village website. Please refer to it. If you have any questions, reach out to me directly. And that concludes my report for the night.
All right, for sure. Thank you very much, Madam Manager. I do want to say that in the future, we have some exciting stuff coming with the sanctuary. Oh, yeah. We also have some exciting, we're working on it, the sewer stuff coming down the line. And I also want to say that you guys will be getting it. There'll be some flyers, more flyers hanging on your doors with my card in and stuff. You guys will be getting some, for everybody who has a small business in El Portal, any type of business, you guys are going to be getting a bunch of information. I have a bunch of papers, a bunch of information that I'm going to be putting on your doors because Mayor Levine Cava put me on her board to be part of her small business boost initiative. And I spoke at an event that she had. She had me speak there, and it was not only small business boost initiatives for individuals throughout our community, but it's also we're reforming the whole thing with county contracting and getting more minority contracts in and things like that. So we've been working on that. I'm on the board for that, and like I said before, I'm late because I just got put on the board with the County Resiliency Department, and we're creating a cohort for all municipalities to be involved, and myself and the village manager. I just signed her up for it today. She didn't even know it. I sent an email.
So how are we enforcing these? Why are we doing this enumeration like we had spoken earlier if we're not putting all of these in? I mean, I'm required to follow this already. If the state changes it, we can do an addendum or an amendment, like you had said, Mr. Attorney, that adds that without a problem. I mean, I don't want to have this ordinance become another 8 pages because we're trying to put this on.
We didn't list all 100, but those were, these days with the pandemic and the health regulations, these in particular would be dangerous if for any reason they were not enforced here. could we cherry pick and see how many of the others from the state we could load in and lengthen this? We could, but we don't need to, but these two kind of jumped out, and they're in use in some other cities who've specified them. I mean, are they essential to the ordinance? They're really not, because the state currently does regulate it, but they certainly don't do them all either.
Anybody from the council want to at least keep those in or want to take them out?
Well,
Oh, you want to say
I have
something?
a question
first?
for the attorney. Am I correct in thinking that one of the reasons for leaving these two specific items in would be in the event that essentially the village would receive like kind of habitual complaints from a property that then that's how we would become aware of it. So it's not like we'd be going into the property after every guest to count towels. That's not really what's going to occur with these two items being left in. As the attorney said, it's for the less experienced. But it also might be for, we could have personnel changes here in the village. So it might also be for less experienced, an assistant to the manager or someone to that effect who'd also be aware of that. So if they're receiving multiple complaints from the same property, that it would become a situation that we would be aware of. It wouldn't be something that would be directly policed, rather something that we would become aware of.
Entirely correct, Vice Mayor. And also, by the way, for guests who might want to look at it, who don't know what they're entitled to and don't know necessarily to look at the state, at least it's a place they can look and see, well, was I getting this? But you're exactly correct.
I mean, Airbnb requires this of us already, and the
Okay.
guest knows that they're getting fresh towels and soap and shampoo. Actually, I can check boxes if you're getting shampoo and conditioner or not. I mean, they're
You guys
down
are
to-
Airbnb, but somebody who's just, renting out something else, not through a platform.
And we're not putting any extra burden on it. It's simply a redundancy.
Yeah, but your point is definitely taken. Is there a way that we can just kind of mention within the ordinance that whomever the owner of the property is must comply with those regulations set forth by the state or by the county?
We could certainly add that.
Mhm.
It doesn't really, it wouldn't be negative to have a general statement that, all other, we do talk about the transient occupancy license that they have to get,
Mm-hmm.
but there certainly would be no harm adding one that said, comply with all other regulations of the state of Florida and Miami-Dade County as number as letter M. You could certainly do that. I'd be a little reluctant for the reasons the vice mayor said to take those
out.
two out, but, just to be clear,
Yeah.
it certainly does no harm to add an M and say comply with all other requirements.
For
of the state of
sure.
Florida and
Does-
Miami-Dade County.
Does that get at what you might feel is somewhat an arbitrary selection of certain regulations to include into the ordinance?
I think it's totally arbitrary, because you guys are talking about cleaning and sanitizing dishes, but you're not telling me how. The state tells me how.
Mm-hmm.
The state
So,
tells me exactly what I need
Maybe
to do.
that's something interesting that you brought up that I think, definitely adds value. You've added value the entire night, but I think maybe the inclusion of an M that kind of contemplates this bulk of information and where to find it and incorporating it into the document would be useful and
I
definitely
agree.
make it less
I already have to
arbitrary.
comply with it, like you said.
Yeah.
I just would love to,
With all deference,
can I finish?
we're delivering an ordinance that will work. If it's not completely intellectually, philosophically perfect, that's no harm, as long as since it doesn't impose any additional burden on anyone, arguing about it candidly is a complete waste of time. It doesn't improve it or make it less burdensome if you take those out. It doesn't do anything.
I think what,
Definitely, but I take your point. I take your point. I don't think that it changes it substantially, but I do think that it makes it more complete. So,
addition,
the addition makes it more complete. So, point is taken.
I think the addition's a great idea. I would just love to say, hey, you need to comply with what the Division of Hotels and Restaurants tells you to do, and that does all of
You might love to
this.
say that, but it doesn't change the effect in any way, and that we're
the owner of the property, Councilperson Martin, must comply with all state regulations?
I'm going to defer to Attorney Geller on that one. That's why he makes the big bucks.
Must also comply with all state of Florida and Miami-Dade County regulations applicable to this type of rental.
I just see on the list things that are more important than dishes.
Applicable to
This type of rental.
this type.
So I'll just say, as a lifelong hospitality worker, started as a dishwasher, there are also very serious concerns with clean dishes. so I will advocate for my fellow dishwashers out there to say that it's easily one of the. You don't want to go to a restaurant where the dishwasher walked out 2 hours ago. That would be. You will regret that the next day.
But the point is taken. What about section 575?
Yeah, just make sure, Councilperson Martin, one more thing, just make sure I have it perfect. The licensee of the property must comply with all state of Florida and Miami-Dade County regulations applicable to this type of rental. Yes. Okay, perfect. Yes. Councilperson Martin, 5, say it again. Where are we going? 5-75. Y'all heard her, 5-75. I'm gonna give you guys a couple minutes to read that and see if anybody has a problem with that one. We're almost done. Once you're done with that, I'm not trying to rush you guys. Once you're done with that, you can go down to the in addition to, which is a short paragraph. This is basic stuff. Even in the first reading, we didn't have any issues with this part of the ordinance, and they were pretty much done after this. We have another in addition to paragraph, in addition to any other fine or penalty. And that's pretty much the last thing. That last in addition to paragraph is the last thing, because
All right,
starting in section 4 is just general stuff.
I have one last wrench
Of course,
to throw
go
in here.
Uh,
Are there any exceptions that we do want to consider? A resident had emailed me and suggested there would be a scenario. For example, let's say someone only leaves their property for the last 2 weeks of December and the first week of January. So in any calendar year, they only rent their property out for a total of, say, 14 days, because they feel better having someone being in the property, especially, say, around, the holidays, when people are looking for opportunities of vacant properties. So they feel better having someone there while they go on vacation somewhere. Do we want any exception whatsoever for someone who would rent their property for a total of less than a certain number of days within a calendar year? Yes, Attorney Geller.
What you could do is, what parts of the ordinance are onerous to somebody who does that? Presumably, the amount that they have to pay might be onerous for someone in that circumstance. So you might be, if you wanted to, you could, for instance, say, the license fee for anyone who rents for less than 14 days in a calendar year shall be drastically reduced, something like that. What you would not, though, want to do, if there's a pool in the property, for instance, you don't want to suspend the thing that says has to be a drain cover, because occasionally young people with long hair get caught with a pump and have drowned. You don't want to say there doesn't have to be somebody available to come if there's a problem. So if there's something else that I'm missing that is onerous to somebody who does that kind of very small rental, other than the fee, you could
carve that out as well, but you certainly could do something for that circumstance that you mentioned that says, if you rent, let's say, less than 15 years in a calendar year, you're permitted to receive a low-level license or whatever you want to call it at a much reduced fee, but you wouldn't want to remove all the other provisions about enforcement, contact person, and what happens if there is a violation, because, you know, if the 2 weeks results in the biggest, you know, Christmas bash of the year, you'd still want the other things to cover it. But you could say, you know, $100 license fee, an application fee or something like that for anyone who rents less than 15 days in a year. And perhaps one of the operators would tell you what else would be onerous that you could relieve someone of if there is another provision other than the money.
Vice Mayor Erbo.
I think licenses for the short-term rental that the state has, for the hotels that we have as an operator, would be a lot of work for somebody to go through to get for 2 weeks. They won't know about tax collections for the county and for the state for the 2 weeks, which they would have to do. If they're doing it through Airbnb, they'll take care of that. But if they're doing it outside of Airbnb, they would have to submit those and get licenses for those. Basically, all of Section 572, 5, all of those requirements, business license for the village, all of those things would be a lot of work for 2 weeks worth of rent. None of these, except the village, I would have to do for a long-term renter.
I did apologize for throwing a wrench.
All right. Are we good, everybody? Everything else is just general stuff, leading
Good to
down
go.
to the ordinance.
Just one quick question.
Yeah,
It's just a
go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
You guys are saying fees get done by resolutions, but we have no idea what those fees are for application and then for the annual. Do you guys have an idea what you guys are looking to charge for? And then if you can tell me why that number, that'd be great.
Sir, let me say, if I might, for the council to adopt those by resolution, which, you know, would come before them if there is an ordinance, that would require that it be published and noticed,
Okay.
and you have
Understood.
absolutely every right, the minute you hear about it, or sooner, and good and well.
Said, I mean, we're probably closer from Broward than we are from any other city in Miami-Dade. So, and I saw most of the ordinance, they have a 15-mile limit or a 20-mile limit. So, a 20-mile, you know, ratio, I think it's a good number,
So
unless you guys want to, you know.
You would want me to add that, like where it says, and add within that 20.
Instead of 20 miles.
Located within 25 miles? Within 20 miles?
20 is fine.
20 miles, yeah,
20 miles of the village
of the village of El Portal, yeah.
And I will tell you that since the village is very small, 20 miles of any part of the village is close enough.
Yes. I can get from here to Pembroke in 75 in less than 20 miles. Yes.
Is everybody else from the council good with that change? Anybody have a problem with that change?
That's fine.
We're good? Okay.
I like 10 to 15, but the 20 is fine.
You're so
That's fine.
I got you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
think I would probably add after, on that 1, 2, 3, that fourth line, the application for a license under this section must contain A, the name, address of the applicant. I would probably put address of the property
Owner?
as well.
Applic-
Address of the property that they're seeking to get the license for.
Okay,
since
address of
owner
the
might not
applicant.
live there.
So you want me to say address of the applicant and property? Or and
I would
or?
separate it, address
Yeah,
of the applicant, address.
And the subject property.
There you go.
I mean, the way it's separated by commas already, I would say address of the applicant, comma, address of the subject property. Right, right.
Okay, it's done.
Some of us pedants would think you should have a comment after subject property, even though they're in Syria, but not everyone would agree.
Give me a second, changing those last two Miami-Dade counties. 1 second. All right, Councilperson Perrella, it is done. All three places.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank you.
anything else with that paragraph before we move on? The next paragraph starts with such application. It starts on the next page, top of the next page. Anybody have a problem with that paragraph? You guys don't need me to read it, do you? You good? Pretty straightforward. Moving, I don't want to go so fast that people don't have time to read the paragraphs, but moving on to the paragraph after that, the one that starts, the applicant must agree to indemnify. Any problems with that? The next one is the village will only accept an application that contains all of the information. Any problem with that little paragraph? Next one's one sentence, the village manager or his or her designee. His/her designee. Like that. Okay. Next paragraph, the village manager or his/her designee must act to approve. Any problems with that paragraph? If I'm going too fast, just let me know. Say, Mayor Omar, slow down, my brother. I hear you. Next one is 5-73. Any problems with that paragraph? Come on. Come on up.
Calixto Navarro, 335 Northeast 87th Street. The insurance required now, this insurance, let me explain to you, Airbnb, it's the only one I use. I don't use any other platform. For this, they provide an insurance for us. Actually, it's $1 million. If anything were to happen on the property or anything like that, any destruction, fire, etc. Do you need another insurance besides that? Because I also have my homeowner's insurance. You know, pretty much all homes are insured. I mean, I just need clarification on this.
If I might, Mayor, the first one doesn't have, number one, there's not an amount. So your homeowner's insurance insuring you against fire hazard and liability, there's, flexibility as to what kind of policy and what kind of limits and what kind of coverage you're going to have. We just want to make sure that you're not bare, because if you have no fire insurance and no hazard insurance, you may have a rundown property that you're not able to get insurance on because no insurance company will give you insurance, and we're trying to insure against that. But it doesn't say, you can only get it for the value of the property, the structure to begin with. So that one's kind of left to your discretion. Number two, that has specific limits, commercial liability insurance that has to do with the activities conducted. I mean, I can't tell you that what Airbnb provides meets that, because I'm not familiar with their particular insurance, but if what they're providing is coverage that meets that paragraph, then I would think that's sufficient. You've got insurance that covers what would happen if somebody is injured in your property or as a result of activities conducted. That's liability insurance, as generally understood. So, you know, if they provide coverage for that in that amount, then you between that and your own homeowners, you're probably good.
Okay, just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Like I said, I'm not, I haven't read their policy, but if that's what it provides.
Thank you very much. Section 5, thank you very much, Attorney Geller. Section 5-74, how are we looking there? You have a lot. I'll give you guys some time. You have A through L. Is there anything that sticks out?
This is kind of the guts of what you're requiring. This is what people
I know.
have to do in their operation.
I know we had questions about G from the first reading. G and H, there were questions about those two in the first reading. Say your name and address for the record, Ms. Dupas. We're almost done, people. We're almost done.
I haven't, are we waiting for something?
No, you can jump in.
Okay.
Jump right in.
I just think maybe in subsection L, I know this is contemplated, but just for clarity's sake, we should probably add at the end of that, including without limitation, the requirement to obtain permits for any special events. Just to enumerate that out there.
Including without limitations.
The requirement to obtain permits for any special events.
It's done, Councilperson Martin. I got you. Look at this. You have to love El Portal. Like, El Portal is just like a small, nice, neat community. Nobody feels like anything is beneath them. You got the mayor is the secretary. Where else in Miami-Dade County do you see stuff like this happening? Right? Usually the mayor sits back like a big shot, you know what I mean, and tries to, we're not like that here. We all get down and we all work hard here.
And I have everybody reading for them.
Right?
The whole
We all
agenda.
work hard here in El Portal. No job is beneath anybody. We all do everything.
I do have one suggestion for
Okay.
subset I. So the name and phone number of the local contact person
Which,
and
where we at?
I.
Okay, on.
The name and phone number of the local contact person, the vacation rental licensee, shall be posted in a conspicuous place near the entrance of the vacation rental. I would like to add, as well as the non-emergency police number of 3054 police. All residents should have that number posted in their house. Is that an appropriate place to put that? Okay.
Done, Vice Mayor. Were you waiting to jump in? Come on, Ms. Dupas. Just say your, you can say your name and address for the record.
177 Northwest 90th Street. You guys are going to know where I live and come visit me soon. So, you had talked about enumerating a lot of things. This is where that is in G and H. We're talking about soap and clean linens. We've talked about this for the first reading already, and the cleaning and sanitation. These, especially those two, the complete paragraphs are already regulated by the Department of Business and Professional Regulations, the divisions of hotels and restaurants that we have to have licenses for.
I think it's about G and H. You're talking about G and H, right?
So it talks about providing soap, clean and nibbled bath cloths, towels, clean linen, good repair, linens and bath cloths and towels shall be changed between occupants, that we have to clean between occupants and all that.
Those are incident to transient occupancy.
Right, they're already, we talked about enumerated things earlier this evening. We are already under that regulation with the state.
Yes, but if the state, for some reason, were to change its rules and no longer require that, and with our state the way it is today, there's no telling, these are things that, well, I mean, actually, probably Miami-Dade County would be requiring them if the state wasn't, but nonetheless, putting them in serves two purposes. Not only are they minimum standards that the village would still want to have in any circumstances if not required by another government authority, but frankly, for less experienced business people than yourself or Mr. Garcia, by putting these here, somebody can read them and understand what they have to do without having to go look at the state records, which they may not know they need to do. So it's kind of like a checklist for the less experienced than you gentlemen.
I understand that. On the flyer that we get from the state, there's probably 100 of these things.
I sent an email. I said, well, she signed up, so it's all good. But so there's a lot of good things, a lot of exciting things coming down the pipe, you guys, and we even have some huge funding information if we can get it. And I've said on multiple occasions that since we were set as council, since I became mayor. And we brought in more money in 1 year than in the entire history of the village of El Portal. And we're going to take that beyond the universe with what we're doing if that comes through. All right, you guys. I appreciate. Go ahead, Councilperson Pro. You good? I appreciate it. That's my report. Attorney Geller, do we have anything to report?
Double as usual. Not only has nobody sued us, but we haven't had to sue anybody. That concludes my report.
There we go. Beautiful things, beautiful things. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Shout out to Full Moon. Appreciate Full Moon. Thank you, guys. Shout out to you, Chief. Shout out to everybody out there. I love you guys. Good and welfare. Is there any last things anybody wants to say? Mr. DuPaul, come on up. No, this is your mic drop moment, my brother. Make it good.
Pascal DePool, Northwest 90th Street, 177 Northwest 90th Street. Forget my own address there for a second. I just want to thank you very much for taking the time and sitting here with us for hours on all these first readings. We appreciate it. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for changing the things that are important to us. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So I just want to say thanks.
Let me tell you, and while Mr. Navarro comes up, man, El Portal, and I really mean this, and I said this, before, but El Portal is a unique place. It's the most. There's nothing like El Portal in Miami-Dade County. Like I can't be hyperbolic and say nationwide or worldwide, but as far as Miami-Dade County, you guys, I'm all over this county. As far as Miami-Dade County, there is no place like El Portal, the way we do things, how our residents are. There is no place like El Portal. Go ahead, Mr. Navarro.
Well, first of all, Calixto Navarro, 335 Northeast 87th Street. Thank you very much for listening to us throughout this whole process of the short-term rental. I think, well, I'm going to ask help from Pascal, but you got to remember, I don't know. I'd have to start somewhere because there's a bunch of things that are going to be required once this thing gets approved. So if you can put something together, what offices I have to go to, what do I need to do, what I need to get, et cetera, because for not only me, but for other residents, right now, you just gave us a bunch of homework to do.
Yeah.
So if, you could just make that accessible to us, thank you very much.
Staff will be happy to assist you in any, or you
Okay.
in any way that we can.
So what we can do is, as Councilperson Martin was saying, is off of what Attorney Geller said, when we do second reading for this, we're going to try to have in place the resolutions to start things up. So in order to prepare those resolutions, we'll have to do all the background check and get all the information in order to even prepare the resolutions. So we'll have a step process and kind of direct you guys what to do.
And what offices I have to go to, because I think now I have to go to county offices, and where's that,
Yeah.
all
So
these
we'll put all that in
different-
place. So by the time we pass the second resolution, because on the ordinance, if you guys look at the end, it says this ordinance takes effect upon adoption of the second reading. So we'll have all that stuff in place before we do the second reading. If it seems like we're not going to be able to gather that information in time for May, then we might have to push the second reading until June.
And then
If we can't get it, but we'll try to get it all together,
And then
all
I-
that information.
I would also say
Vice Mayor Urban.
I would also say the packet that that Mr. Navarro is asking be ready for property owners to have access to also would be the same packet that would help our staff on our end be able to efficiently and in an organized way. So it's definitely mutually beneficial to have that packet together and clear, step by step. So
There's a lot of
Absolutely.
homeowners
Yep.
here.
Mayor,
Yes, Attorney Geller.
we put in these ordinances that they take effect upon passage, but state law is that if there is no time specified, it takes effect 10 days after passage. But in this case, since the reso will, even coming up at the same meeting, you could all think about and direct us whether you want us to provide in the ordinance for a more delayed effective date to give people time to complete the paperwork that Mr. Navarro is talking about. You could say instead of the regular 10, we usually have them immediately upon adoption. But instead of the 10 state law provides, it could be 15, it could be 30. That's something you may just want to consider, and
We-
I guess the gentleman
we
may
have a
both
six-
some comment.
We have a 60-day effective date originally, but most of our ordinances say it takes effect upon adoption.
Mostly they
we could
do,
keep the
but if
60
you
days
wanted
if we
to
want.
Phase
or-
this in, we'll take any suggestions.
days,
and
or-
you may wish to, I mean, you don't want to adopt something that the next morning half the town is in violation of. So considering that there's an application process, you may wish to delay the effective date of the ordinance, and we can specify that in the ordinance. That's common with state law.
I'm gonna come to you in 1 second, Mr. DuPaul. Mr. Navarro, just want to make
Yeah,
sure you.
please, because I want to try to get in first before the onslaught.
Of course, I got you. People rush to office. I got you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for everything, Calixto. I appreciate it. Council, for second reading, let's think about how long you would like this to be implemented after the passage of the second reading, and we can keep it on May, so that, and we'll try to get everything together prior to the May meeting. If everything is not together as far as information, then, at the meeting, I'll say, you guys think about how long, 10 days or 15 days or 30 days or whatever. Just kind of brainstorm that. Vice Mayor, you want me to go to him first and then come to you, or you want to say something?
I just want to make a comment that we cannot do legislation up here on the dais without the input from residents. So it's wonderful to see residents come out and participate, and it's just not possible for us to be effective without the input of residents, and it's great to see residents again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Urban. Mr. DuPaul.
We're actually in compliance right now. We have everything that you guys are asking for. It's going to take somebody about 30 to 45 days to get this all done.
Okay.
Between the tax things and the hotel stuff and figuring out what they need and making calls and getting the licenses to people.
Okay.
It is, like Calixto said, it's not something when you pass the ordinance today and tomorrow morning he wants to be in compliance,
Okay.
you guys have a 10-day application process that you promise us to have it done in 10 days. At least give people the 10 days.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna go out and get this stuff now. We have this because we're in other municipalities that require it. Until it's passed, and then like you're saying, I would hate to be the guy that finds out this just passed Tuesday night, and Wednesday morning I'm in violation. And I'm trying to, but I just can't.
And one further alternative that the state uses often, instead of saying 10 days, 30 days, or that, you could simply say, for instance, this ordinance goes into effect July 1st.
I got you.
And then whether you pass it in May or in June, again, depending on when our June council meeting is, that might be a narrow window. But if you delay it to then, I mean, if you said July 1st, you know, you can pick a date certain, or you can have a certain number of days past the adoption.
Thank you very much, Attorney Geller. I think that May is going to be good. I think we're going to look to put this second reading for May. I already have my current agenda item, so it's looking good for me. You guys, council, you guys, make sure you guys kind of brainstorm. Do you want to have a certain number of days, or do you want a certain date to go when we do the second reading? Kind of keep that in mind for next month. I want to say, you guys, this is the best council I've ever been a part of, and I really do appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for everything. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Martin. All in favor say aye. Ayes from everybody. All opposed say nay. I'm hearing none. The regular council meeting for Tuesday, April 26, 2022 is adjourned at 10:13 p.m. Thank you very much, you guys.